That's right. That's how we do it. Something in my eye. Let's see. I'm going to try to do 1 hour today. That's what I always say. I end up doing like 3. Depends. If the conversation's good, I'll stay. Yo, Radar Apologetics. Bendito nene. All right, let's do it. Let's talk Judaism versus the world. Yeah. Like we do every night. I have to keep up with Jewish politics, i.e. religious politics. There's this guy I do recommend. In terms of Torah audio, and that's really where you should be getting your information from. Right? I guess TikTok's cool too, but like audio lectures that are geared toward a specific topic is probably the best way to learn. I encourage yutorah.org. You could download the app. You could go to the website, yutorah.org. So YU is Yeshiva University. This is their media wing. Like I said, there's an app, and that's probably the best place to get Torah lectures. See, the bulk of these other Baal Tshuva, newcomer to Judaism websites kind of suck. The reason why is because they deal, it's not made for religious people. It's made for people who they're trying to convince you to be religious. And by the simple fact that you're dealing with people who don't even believe in encouraging Judaism, that means they're not equipped to encourage Judaism. Can you imagine when they try to win secular Jews over? It's going to be a primitive argument. So if you want to learn about Judaism, you should listen to classes that are by rabbis for rabbis. Hold on, I'm missing some of the conversation here. Yeah, lectures that are by rabbis for rabbis, and yutorah.org is what I recommend. So I was talking about being up to date with religious politics. So there's this historian. He's one of the Rosh Hashivas of YU in Israel, right? YU East, I think they call it. Rabbi Aaron Rakefet, the Rock. So he's already getting up there in years, but he's really up to date on Jewish politics, right? Religious Jewish politics. So yeah. Anyways, yutorah.org. All right, let's see. I'm God and I'm starting my own religion. Could gullible people please join? I hope you would join my live and dialogue with me. Yo, it's a painter's birthday today. What does that mean? A painter's birthday. It's 420 for all you hippies out there. His real name is Amalek the Chaldean. Who are you talking about? All right, good evening, guys. So what's up? Let's see. Who can we throw up here? Let's throw my friend up here. Who else? It's Thursday night. So in Israel, there's this practice they do in yeshiva called mishmar. Every Thursday night, to keep kids out of the streets of Jerusalem, i.e. Ben Yehuda, Crack Square, Kikar Tzion, the rabbis came up with this idea that Thursday night, keep them busy, occupied, eating meatless cholent in yeshiva, playing guitar, whatever. Yeah. With all their efforts, they still don't get a big turnout. Right? Ben Yehuda, Thursday night, that's like Friday night in America. Well, people don't know, in Israel, Thursday night is like Friday night here, right? Assuming you're not Jewish and you go out and party Friday night. And, because Friday daytime is, most people are off, somewhat. At least religious people are out at the market preparing for Shabbos. Shabbos is the big thing. Shabbos in Jerusalem is probably the coolest thing. It's the only thing I miss about Israel. Walking down the streets of Jerusalem, and the streets are closed, and everyone's just walking, and the kids are playing, and cats all over the place. There was this rabbi who once said that Jerusalem has a cat problem. It's no secret. There's cats all over the place, and if you look at these cats, they're like the most mangled cats you're ever going to see. They're like missing ears and eyeballs and tails. So there was this rabbi who said that cats in Jerusalem are like the neshamas, the like the reincarnation of Jewish prostitutes. I mean, if you're going to believe in the notion of Gilgal, I mean, I guess it's better than reincarnating as a rock or an inanimate object. So there you go. Next time you want to kick a cat in Jerusalem. Yeah, also in Israel, they have this thing that they don't castrate their animals for religious reasons. You're not supposed to castrate your cats and dogs. Interesting. I mean, I'll tell you something I did. I've always had dogs, at least, since I was, 23. And we made aliyah with the dog, right? Now, most people don't know, if you make aliyah with a pet, you're not eligible to stay in an absorption center. And one of the benefits of making aliyah, right, what's so big deal, I mean, you could just live in Israel without being a citizen, is that you get money every month for about 6 months. It's called a sal klita, $250 a month. And they let you live somewhere for 6 months till you get your, till you get on your feet. And if you can't find a place for another 6 months, you request a meeting and they could extend it. However, if you make aliyah, that means you immigrate to Israel with a pet. You're not welcome in absorption centers. And also, it's hard to find a flight to Israel, or at least on El Al, with a dog. Because they have some policy that if there's like a mace, like if there's a dead body in the plane, this is a big practice that people have of flying corpses to Israel to be buried. They're not allowed to have a dog on the plane if there's a corpse. I mean, I figure, why not? I mean, the tumah of a dead body is clearly bigger than a tumah of a dog. But I don't know. I mean, I guess unless the dog come up to the passenger section with like a femur in its mouth or whatever. So, yeah, you see? You love your dog so much and you make aliyah with them and then you suffer. However, you make up for it like walking your dog down Meir Sharm. Meir Sharm and Geula, oh my gosh. It's like these people have never seen a dog before. I've seen grown men yelling and screaming, out of fear. Not like someone's like they're wearing a flowy, colorful shirt. It's interesting. I had a girlfriend in Israel when I was there in yeshiva, and she was walking down the streets of Meir Sharm with a flowy, colorful skirt. And the kids started throwing eggs at her because of the color. I mean, it's one thing you're walking around, forget it. I mean, if you're walking around in pants or shorts and a crop top or something, that's something else, right? But a flowy skirt, which is typically like the hippie bat ayin, I guess Dati Lumi style for women, right? Naot, flowy skirts, and some Indian hippie shirt. They'll throw eggs at you. Well, anyways, the same people who throw eggs on Shabbos, which, I mean, I guess if, Din Lechol, where they separate the eggs before Shabbos, I'm not sure how they justify this, are the same ones who freak out when they see a dog. Ultra-religious Jews are scared of dogs, like petrified. And when I came to Jerusalem, I stayed in the old city, and I was staying in my friend, I still work for the guy, his name is Jeff Seidel. I was staying in his office with my dog. And then I would walk him down Meir Sharm, because the old city, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's I don't know if it's respectful to walk a dog there, but regardless, I'd walk him down Meir Sharm and people would freak out. So there you go. I mean, it made up for not... Anyway, let's see. Atheism is the smartest and the best. Okay, so hop on. Let's dialogue. Guys, let's dialogue. Okay, it's really important. It's really bad for the animal. Those hormones are important. The hormones of what? Okay, hold on. Thanks, I'm Christian. You can be one too. I support Israel. You need to support Christians. What is that? Oh, I think he's talking about some supposed bill, which is, I doubt it's going to pass. And I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know typically anything they report about Israel passing a bill is typically exaggerated. That there's some sort of jail time for proselytizing Christianity. From this perspective, I support Christians. Okay, I mean, I'm all for Christians reaching out to secular Jews, and this is who they reach out to, by the way. Christians in Israel don't reach out to religious Jews. I mean, they wouldn't at all. They usually reach out to Russians or just Jews who aren't religious. to give them some I don't know, appreciation for the Word of God. So yeah, I mean, I've always said better a religious Christian than an atheist. So yeah, I don't endorse Israel doing this. Yeah, if that's really what they're doing. Okay, let's see. The bill already vetoed. Yeah, it's just they put these bills on the table to please like Degel Hatorah and Shas and all these Haredi parties, which really only exist to barter more welfare for like religious families with a lot of kids. I mean, that's your only, because they prostitute themselves constantly with the other parties. I mean, just to get what they want, but they don't really care. I'm not a religious Zionist, but I support the state of Israel. Right? It's whatever. When it comes to Zionism, most people think it's black and white. It's not. But most people who support the state of Israel do not respect religious parties. They're maggots and parasites. Now, I guess when I was there, it was Mafdal, then Israel Batenu. Like, there's more Dati Lomi parties that are more serious about Israel. But Haredim, because they don't support the state of Israel, and they're not able to articulate it the way I do, because I could at least say, for political reasons, as an American, I support Israel. They only want to stay out of military service, typically, and they want more welfare. So, why do they even have a party? I guess they need some sort of representation. Okay. Someone says, I am gay, can I be Jewish? It's not a sin to be gay, okay? The sin is acting it out sexually, right? A man lying with a man, as he does with the woman. I have my own interpretation to that, but I'm not going to deny that that's what the law is, right? I mean, I think that during the time of the Beis Din HaGadol, the Sanhedrin, assuming that it wasn't gratuitous, like bisexuality, you don't have to be with a guy, but like you just do it for fun, I think they would in some way find some sort of loophole, right? But the law is the law. Loophole in the sense that I don't think it was really meant for people who have no choice in the matter. If someone's not attracted to women, they're not attracted to women. I think it had to do more with the practices of ancient Greece, where it was a form of exploration, or it was cultural, right? But anyways, that's fine. Are Samaritans Jews? So there's a debate. According to the Mishnah, they are Jews. According to Talmud Bavli, they're not. So it sort of went back and forth. Talking about Samaritans, when I was in Israel for Sukkot, I went to Holon. So Holon is near Tel Aviv. It's one of the two major little towns for Samaritans, right? Because they're like in Har Bracha, Mount Gerizim, whatever, and Holon. But Har Bracha is not in Israel proper, I guess, whatever. Like, Zionists will get upset if I use that term. I guess it's more near the Shomron. But meaning that the Samaritans that live on Mount Gerizim aren't Israeli citizens. So I don't know if Israel even allows them to enter the Israel proper. While Holon is in Israel, it's near Tel Aviv. And I interviewed like the head guy for a brief second. His name is Ben Sadaka. I don't believe what Samaritans believe, but it's interesting that they have their own thing, and they actually imported wives because they were so inbred, because they don't accept converts, by the way. And they have many genetic diseases or something, so they changed their halachas to accept converts, and I guess, kind of convenient, right? I mean, they imported Russian wives and married them, right? I mean, Russians, right? I mean, why not Ethiopian wives? Right? It was because they think Russians are hotter, and yeah, whatever. Now they are increasing their numbers. I think in terms of men, there's only around 250 of them. But yeah. Yeah, guys, I'm just going to ramble till you guys hop on here. Okay, do you mind explaining how Jews can proselytize? Sorry, if you already said, heard. Okay, yeah. No, Jews can proselytize. There's nothing against Judaism. The burden of proof is on people who say it's not allowed. Welcome, Super Smallwood. It's like derogatory.
I'm sorry. No, I just want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So concerning Judaism, what's your most favorite part about it?
It's not the Jews, I'll tell you that. But In particular, or I mean, in the macro, it's the individual moral training. Um,
Uh-huh. Like
being able,
individualism type of vibe.
no, I mean, it's national to begin with, right? But a nation is made up of a bunch of individuals. So the individual moral training is the idea that I could package something and hand it over to my kids and not leave them alone in this world to in some way reinvent the wheel ethically. That's very important to me. I like it when Christians and even Muslims and in particular Jews are able to articulate where their values come from. Our values come from the Bible. I don't know if Christians even use words like value. They just emulate Jesus, which I think leaves them less consistently ethical, right? I mean,
Do you think there's a reason? Because like I know in the olden times, like during the time of Second Temple, there was a lot of Jews. Like 10% of the Roman Empire was Jewish, right?
yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, Salo Baron teaches us they were converts to Judaism.
So like, what happened? Like, why is there only now like 14 million Jews, 15 million Jews?
Assimilation. I mean, they were exiled. They weren't allowed to proselytize. Right? Most nations grow very large, right? Like religious entities because of proselytizing. If you're just going to limit it to birth rates, then you're never going to grow, especially when there's massacres, crusades, the Holocaust. Oh, yeah. And then because of Kabbalah, I think Kabbalah is probably the most destructive force in the Jewish world. And it's
Why?
kept Jewish
Why?
numbers down.
Why is it destructive? It's so beautiful, no?
Well, okay. So I think a broken clock is right twice a day, meaning there's some nice things in Kabbalah, but overall, I think it hurts Jews in general because it changed the reason why people remain Jewish. Kabbalah invented the idea of the Jewish soul. So it's not a merit-based system. It's based off of
So we
blood,
don't
essentially.
we don't have a soul?
No. We don't have a particular Jewish soul. They believe that there's a Gentile soul, an animal soul, and a Jewish soul. And they're saying that the souls that Gentiles have are akin more to it's a little above the animal soul, but it comes from the unclean klipot.
I read Kabbalah a lot. I never heard that.
That's the first two chapters of the Tanya.
I disagree. I disagree.
I'm telling you what it says. I'm not saying that.
No, I
every
read the Tanya
Kabbalah
as a kid. I read the Tanya as a kid.
Okay,
I
all
disagree.
right. Well, I mean, it's hard to disagree with what it says.
Let me give you a follow,
Jews,
and I'll message you. And,
okay.
We'll go from
Look,
there.
regarding Jews, it says Chelek Elokam Imal Mamish, that a soul of a Jew is a Chelek Mamash of Hashem, is actually a piece of God. Only the soul of the Jew. It says the soul of Gentiles come from the Sitra Achra, from like the other side, the evil side, from the unclean klipot. It's inherently irredeemable. And they believe that if someone ends up converting to Judaism, it's because they were Jewish all along. I think this idea has hurt Jews. I mean, it makes Jews feel bad.
I think it's talking about the people that act like animals, not actually like if you follow the 7 Noahide laws, you're okay.
Okay, so I'll tell you, nowhere in the Tanya does it ever reference the 7 Noahide laws or reference righteous Gentiles. I know Chabad believes this, but the Bala Tanya never mentioned it. And the Tanya is the Bible of Chabad. So,
sorry, just to bring evidence to this discussion, I've read and studied Tanya in Chabad, and it definitely says that in the chapter 2. So I don't know how you claim that it doesn't say that. Just go open up Tanya, read chapter 2. It says that the non-Jews have the soul that barely above the animal.
All right, let me read this.
Now, some will say that it's talking about like
so you say Tanya, first book of Tanya, second page.
No, well, the
second
first chapter
2.
The first chapter. It's the first and second chapter. The second chapter talks more about the Jewish soul. The first chapter talks more about the Gentile soul.
All right.
Now, it doesn't mention righteous Gentiles, so one could assume that it's only talking about wicked Gentiles. If you understand it with like the Sikhas of the Rebbe, like the other writings of the Rebbe. But that book alone, or the Balatanya never says this notion that Chabad believes in so much that righteous Gentiles get a share in the world to come. He never says that anywhere. I know that Chabad teaches this, but the Balatanya alone doesn't teach this. So this is why, there's nice ideas in the New Testament and in the Quran, right? But overall, I mean, I don't really encourage people to study those books either. I view the Zohar and the Tanya and all these things like I view these other books. If they bring you closer to God.
How about the Mishnah? Do you like the Mishnah or?
Of course, that's the source of the oral law.
Cool.
Yeah. Are you comparing the Mishnah to the Tanya?
No, of course, no.
Lahavdil.
I definitely think the Mishnah is more correct than the Tanya.
Yeah, no, the Mishnah is the only thing that's correct in Judaism is the commandments in the 5 books of Moses and the Mishnah, and everything else is essentially disposable.
How about the Shulchan Aruch?
The Shulchan Aruch is based off the Mishnah, meaning all these books are based off the Mishnah. The Mishnah is Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay, but the Talmud is made up of 2 books. It's the Mishnah and its commentary known as the Gemara. There's 2 Talmuds, there's Talmud Yerushalmi and Talmud Bavli. Talmud Yerushalmi is the Amoraim, i.e. the commentators to the same Mishnah, right? But from Israel, and Talmud Bavli are the commentators from Babylon, right? But they're commenting on the Mishnah. I mean, they can't even create new laws, but the Mishnah could create laws because the rabbis in the Mishnah were the rabbis of the Sanhedrin. The rabbis in the Mishnah are called Tanaim. While the teachers, I'm not even gonna call them rabbis, that appear in the Gemara are called Amoraim. So the Amoraim are only allowed to, well, they can't disagree with the Tana. So yeah, no, the Mishnah for sure it's binding. But Shulchan Aruch, Mishneh Torah, the Rosh, the Rif, like all these.
How about like commentators, like like it says in the Bible, they have all these commentators on like what it actually means, like Rashi and etc. Are those guys cool or not cool? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, but they're just that. They're commentators, and by the simple fact that they contradict each other, meaning the Ibn Ezra disagrees with Rashi, disagrees with the Rashbam, means that take what you want and drop what you want, right? I mean, Rashi is not Torah Sheba'al Peh. I mean, he's not the oral law, right? I mean, he's there to give you a different perspective to look at the pasuk. Right? But oral law from Rashi. People learn oral law from Rashi unless because Rashi is also a commentator to the Talmud, so I mean, he's expounding on stuff that is binding. But in terms of just commentary, this idea that you can't understand the Torah without commentary, I think it's a silly idea. There's ethical laws, right, that should be self-explanatory, but we don't learn how to keep Torah laws from commentators. We learn how to keep Torah laws from the Mishnah, because the Sanhedrin, they created rabbinic laws to fill in the gray area in the Torah. For example, the 39 categories of prohibited like labor, like malachas. This was developed by the court. Some people say, "Oh, it's from the Torah." Yeah, it's from the Torah because it's not literally in the Torah clearly, but the rabbis filled in the gaps, and God said they had the authority to in Deuteronomy chapter 17.
You're saying like it's cool to have commentary, but like concerning like a place, like let's say the Gemara tells us a halacha that contradicts directly what it says in the Torah. Let's say the Torah says, sukkah has to be 4 sides, and the Gemara says it can be 3 sides. I'm just making this up.
Right.
Let's say it says that. You're saying basically we should listen to the original Torah and not talk about we should not listen to the Gemara.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but that's not the case, by the way. I mean, the Gemara says that a sukkah needs, 3 sides. And
I don't know the specifics. I would just use it as like an example.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it says, it quotes Exodus chapter 23. It says, don't follow the majority to do evil. Meaning, the majority amongst the Jewish people is always understood as the chachamim, like the ones who decide halakha. So if they tell you to do something that's against the Torah, you have to disobey them. If your father tells you to do something that's against the Torah, kivud avayim doesn't apply. Like, you could dishonor them because if, like, for the sake of the Torah.
But here's the interesting thing: what defines it as the Chachamim? Because like there's many different types of Jewish communities in the world. You have Reform, you have Chabad, you have conservative Jews.
Sure,
you have
That's a good question. So nowadays, rabbis have zero power. No matter what community you belong to, the rabbi only has the power that community gives them. Like if you're Bukharian, let's say, like if you don't like what they do in your synagogue, you could go to a different community. You could become Ashkenazi or Sephardi or something like that, right? But these rabbis don't have power over all of Israel. In the time of the Talmud, the Mishnah, those rabbis were the central rabbis that spoke for all the Jewish people because they had something called smicha going all the way back to Moses. This process of smicha disappeared in the 4th century of the Common Era. Since then, everyone has the status of hediotot, like layman. That means
Wait,
that
what happened in the 4th century? How did that happen?
the Sanhedrin was abolished and like smicha was abolished because the Roman Empire said that anyone transferring smicha to somebody else that would be killed. So you couldn't have a Sanhedrin without men who had smicha. And in Babylon, those guys didn't have a smicha because you couldn't get smicha outside of the land of Israel. Like all this is in the Talmud. This is like most rabbis don't teach it because it's advanced. Like, but that's how you know who has authority or not, right? I mean, if the Rambam says something and he just makes it up, right, and the Mishnah says something and it contradicts the Rambam, you have to go by the Mishnah, right? I mean, the Rambam
I wonder, there's nothing more authoritative than the Torah, like the 5 books, right? Okay,
right, cool. The Chumash, right?
Got it. Cool. And the Mishnah is the second most authoritative, or third, I think?
It would be the second.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's only Torah Shebiktav, which is the 5 books, and Torah Shebal Peh, which is the Mishnah.
And I remember this word growing up at Tanakh, right? Tanakh.
Yeah. All right. So Tanakh, most people don't know that it's not. Let me see. It's not from the time of our sages, right? Our sages, again, are people who had smicha. The idea was invented by the Catholics because no Jew would ever combine Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. There's always a distinction between Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and Nevi'im and Ketuvim, which are the writings and the prophets. So the Catholics invented the idea of a codex. That means it was a book that contained the whole Bible. If you walk into any synagogue, there's a Sefer Torah, and then for the Haftorah, they'll read either, I guess if you're Sephardi, they have a special scroll for that, or if you're Ashkenazi, they'll just read from these Tanakhs. But they would never combine the two. So this term Tanakh is a later invention, right? And it's also detrimental to the Jewish people. It's hurt the Jewish people because the reason the rabbis had a law that you couldn't combine the 2 books is lest you elevate what appears in the prophets or the writings to the same level as the Torah, which is what people do nowadays. And this gave birth to Christianity, it gave birth to Islam, and every sect out there from the Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, Nazarenes. Not making a distinction between what's from the Torah.
All this is so interesting. What's your favorite book about it? Like, I still want to read about this. Like,
yeah, so there are some rabbis who teach this online, but they're more rationalist Orthodox rabbis. Like,
no, but is there like a book or something?
No, there's not a book. No, but you could go to their YouTube pages. There's a rabbi called Rabbi David Bar Chaim.
If you ever wrote a book, I would definitely buy it.
Oh, I appreciate it.
There's a lot of books. Yeah, you gotta spend years reading to get caught up.
Well, Mishneh Torah says it, right? I mean, of the Rambam. That's all you need. The only thing you need to be a kosher Jew in this world is the 5 books of Moses and Mishneh Torah. I said Mishnah, but the laws of the Mishnah are codified in Mishneh Torah. So Mishneh Torah is the Rambam's codification of all of Jewish law. And it exists in English. I mean, for those who have a problem reading Hebrew, I mean, Chabad.org has it all in English. It covers every Jewish law. And if you study 3 chapters, as a matter of fact, there's a siyum this Sunday for I think the 3-year or the 1-year cycle of Mishnah Torah Yomi. That means if you read 1 chapter of Mishnah Torah a day, you'll be done in 3 years. If you read 3 chapters a day, you'll be done in 1 year. But Mishneh Torah is all of halacha, all of it, from Talmud Bavli, Yerushalmi, the Baraitot, the Toseftot, the Sefradas, Sefrida Mechota. You master that, and you master the 5 books of Moses. That's all you need, and you would know more than 99% of the rabbis out there. That's it. Don't focus on Kabbalah. I'm not saying it's bad to study Kabbalah, but it's almost like a waste of time, especially for people who weren't born into the system. If you're about tshuva or you're a convert, stick to halakha because that's the only thing that's binding. If you heard like Kabbalists argue, they don't really because it's not set in stone, these ideas. You could have a mystical idea here and a mystical idea there, and they contradict each other, but who cares? They're mystical ideas. That means they're in some way not binding to believe, right? Total.
I don't know where you got that from. I don't know where you got that from.
What are you talking about?
So what's your thoughts on Neginim? Good, bad.
So real quick, Asher, you should probably make a list of which books of the Mishneh Torah would be the ones to focus on, because like I don't think that studying korbanot or laws of Nazir or that stuff, it's not really applicable in modern days, right? But it's still going to take you time to go through.
Yeah, that's interesting. There should be like a Kitzer Mishnah Torah, right?
Yeah,
like, concise. What'd you say? Like what's my opinion on Nigunim?
Yeah.
Like songs for Shabbos?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, like there's a vibe of singing Nigudim to kind of bring up the
I'm
soul.
a Shabbos guy.
Is that like a thing? Like kind of
for
does the
sure.
Torah say anything about that? Because honestly, if you ask me, my favorite part of Judaism is that.
Yeah, well, that's not my favorite, but I'm a Shabbos guy. I mean, this is what I did in Israel. In Israel, I worked for an organization that set people up for Shabbos. There's this guy that I mentioned, like Rabbi Asher Meza, that he stands at the hotel every Friday night, Saturday morning, and he sends people to families all over Jerusalem. So Shabbos is my thing. Here in America, I'd have like 40 people for Shabbos every week before the stupid pandemic. And we sing. I mean, Nigunim, most people don't know what that is if they're Israeli. I mean, you have to say like, Zimrot. Like just songs, but everything. No, I mean, whatever.
Cool. No, but like, how are they? How is the correct way to use? Because the way I was taught that they are used is basically, it's supposed to be something to bring up your soul.
Oh, for Kabbalists. I mean, only Kabbalists really call it.
Does it have a different purpose, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that we have a mitzvah to be besimcha on Shabbos. Just to be happy. But I mean, Kabbalists take everything always to a different level. So I don't know. Actual nigunim. I mean, from the Rebbe, and I'm not talking about like the Lubavitcher Rebbe. There's many times there's no words. It's just like ay, and then I mean he has like an outer body experience, and everyone's there at the tish, witnessing this. And I spent Shabbos in Kiryas Yol and in Williamsburg, by Satmar, and also I mean in Meir Sharim and stuff like that. And all the Hasidim are in bleachers, and then they have this, what they call him an Admor, right? Who in some way is channeling God to them. I'm not into Kabbalah. I know enough about Kabbalah. I mean, I learned the yeshiva for many years, but it's just, I don't know. I know enough about it that I think that it's not for me. So, I mean, I like Shlomo Carlebach, right? I mean, that's probably like the most famous, at least in the Litvish world. And I mean, he's not a Litvak, but he's what make the Litvak in more Hasidish, because he was Lubavitch initially.
Do you like the song?
Yeah, they kicked him out for guitar.
Right. Well, there's 3 Jews that were excommunicated from Chabad. I guess most people don't know this. So it was Shlomo Carlebach, Shmuley Boteach, and this guy who just passed away. He was the founder of Renewal Judaism. His name is Rabbi Zalman Schechter. What's his name? Zalman Schechter from like Colorado. So anyways, they were all shluchim. I mean, like emissaries of the Rebbe, but they started doing weird things. Like, they still identify as Chabad, but they're no longer like shluchim. Shmuley Boteach came out on Oprah Winfrey and was hugging women and all this stuff, which is, I guess, I don't know. I mean, nowadays, the Lubavitchers get away with a lot. I mean, in the time of the Rebbe, they couldn't have got away with it. I mean, there's like rappers and stuff that wouldn't have existed back then.
That's what I don't get. Like they kicked out Shlomo Carlebach for playing guitar, but this big guy who went to prison for torturing animals is still a big rabbi in Chabad.
Wait. Okay. So I worked for Rabashkin. I guess most people don't know this. I have many stories. I worked for Rabashkin for about 3.5 years for agri-processing, and I spent a few Shabbos with him. Okay, so no one was torturing animals in Postville, Iowa. Okay, PETA snuck in with a camera, and it's a completely halachic Like once, like you check the animal and you pull the trachea out and everything. Sometimes there's some throws and it walks around and it falls. It's not a pretty sight, right? I mean, not everyone. If you don't have a taiva for blood, don't be a shochet. But they weren't torturing animals. The reason he went to jail was because they were employing illegal immigrants and they weren't paying taxes. Okay, which is whatever. I mean, I was against the outcry because they were trying to make it seem like it was an anti-Semitic thing. I don't see it. Anyways, he got out and they're almost making him Mashiach now. But I was very close to the Rubashkin family. And they're Lubavitch. My son goes to Lubavitch, by the way. LEC in South Florida, that's where my kid goes. Right? I mean, I'm not anti-Chabad. Chabad in my neighborhood has the best children.
So same thing, I go to Chabad.
I kind of always wondered this. Because obviously you look at, you're not young, but how has Chabad changed? Because I'm 22 years old. I'm Chabad. It seems to me that Chabad was from the 80s is different to how it is now.
For sure,
it depends on which Chabad, right? It's Chabad in Israel, Chabad in New York, or Chabad Shluchim and other cities. It's very different.
Let's speak in general terms.
All right. So the headquarters of Chabad, I would say, speaks for Chabad. I mean, as much as people want to deny that, anyone who's ever went to 770, and I have a video that I went to 770, and I specifically went on the Rebbe's birthday, which is around the beginning of Pesach. It was wild. We're taking shots. I walked out of there stumbling drunk. And that all over the place, you have Yechi, right? Yechi Adonenu, Morenu V'Rabbeinu, Melech HaMashiach, L'olam V'ed, right? Like the cry that the Rebbe's Mashiach. It's everyone there believes the Rebbe's Mashiach. Some believe that he's still with us, hiding behind a curtain or something. Some believe that he's with us in spirit, and some believe that he's coming back, whatever. But in that building, that's a headquarters for Chabad, right? And it's all Mishachistim.
And the funny thing?
Yeah.
He literally said many, many times that he was not the Messiah. Well,
not after the stroke, he didn't, though. And
before
when they were singing Yechi in front of him, he never corrected them. So people were saying, "Oh, maybe he did." And also, he thought that his father-in-law was Mashiach, because he wrote in a Sikha that a Rebbe is the Atzmut Aguf, is the divine essence in bodily form, which is, I believe, is biggest justification for Christianity. I mean, it's what it says in the book of Colossians about Jesus. Yeah, so they're big on messianic fervor. The Brisker Rav, when the Rebbe gave his first mimer, whatever they want to. Chabad has their own terminology for everything. What we call Kiddush Club, they call for break-in. What we call Kiruv, they call your Shlichut. It's an interesting group. But the Brisker Rav said that this Mashiach thinks that he's Mashiach. When what's the name of his first mimer? Gani, I don't know. I'm sure there's hardcore Lubavitchers that are correct me here. Where's Yehuda Heskalovich when you need him? Okay.
Yeah, but if you go to Chabad at other cities outside of New York, they behave very differently. It's very...
So there's two Chabads. Well, I guess there's four Chabads, but there's Chabad for Chabad and Chabad Outreach, which is Chabad houses. So yeah. Chabad houses is what you see in the university. So of course they're going to be Chabad light, right? They're going to touch a little bit on souls, because souls is the whole, that's their bread and butter, right? But then there's Chabad for Chabad. And that's when you start hearing weird. The weirdest hardcore place for Chabad is a town in Israel. They have their own town called, right, Legani. Thank you. It's called Kafar Chabad. It's next to Kiryat Malachi, whatever. My previous wife, her family in Israel was big time Chabad, in Kiryat, and they were out of Kiryat Malachi, I believe. I'm sorry. Yeah, they were out of Kiryat Malachi. Kafar Chabad is next to Moshav Matatyahu. And they even have Chabad there that believe that the Rebbe's God. They're called Elokistim, and on Tisha B'Av they have a Suda. I'm not saying they're bad. Okay, I'm just telling you that if you're going to tolerate them, you can tolerate Messianic Jews. But I like Chabad. I just like any group. I disagree with here and there, but I think overall they do more good in the world than bad.
What about Tzfat? Because there's black and gold flags all over Tzfat. Is it a separate group?
Black and gold. What do you mean, Kahana? What are you talking about?
No. I'm talking about the Mashiach flag for Chabad.
Is it black or is it blue?
Sign. That flag is basically saying, we're living in the time of Messiah or something else.
Yeah.
It's the black flag with a golden crown on it,
Oh,
right?
is it? Okay. I thought
Yeah,
it
it's
was
the Mashiach flag.
Yeah, Mashiach flag.
Yeah, no, the only people who use it are people who believe the Rebbe is Mashiach. Right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So is it same like the Chabad who like the Mashiachism?
Yeah, they're all over the place. But there's a video on my TikTok that I go up to, like on Ben Yehuda, to Lubavitcher's dancing, and it's always a party. It's wild, and they're waving flags, and I'm like, I don't know, like Minu HaMashiach.
Why do you think? Why do you think out of all the other because obviously there's a lot of different deviations of Kabbalah. You know, you have Satmar, you have this, you have that, but concerning Chabad, it seems like they're the happiest. Is there a reason for that?
They're the lightest, if those, I guess, the least observant.
Like,
think,
do they drink the most mashka?
No, not, like all Hasidim drink a lot, but I think that they're the most purposeful.
I'm just kidding.
Like they have a goal, which well, the Rebbe did a lot of great things. Okay, as much as I mean, I disagree with a lot of things he did, but he pushed for Chabad to be on the cutting edge of everything, multimedia, outreach. Was invented by Chabad because Jews never did outreach. I mean, they had Musar, and Chabad hates the word Musar, but Musar was to strengthen weak Jews, not to reach out to secular Jews, which is what Chabad invented. And it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing, but it was never really done before. Jews never felt some sort of obligation to do that. Then Chabad also pushed the initiative in the 60s for the 7 laws of Noah, which I think it's silly. But the average Jew the average Chabadnik has his hands full of, has purpose in this world. While, the job of most Hasidim is to stand out. To separate themselves from the rest of the world. This is why they wear like knickers.
In simple terms, they're not bored.
Correct. Right. So that itself makes them happier. And the women, everybody knows that Chabad women are like the hottest chicks. Okay, I mean, this is it, hands down. Everybody knows this, and this is why the other Hasidim hate them, because the Rebbitzins, their wigs look real. I mean, they don't look like fake hair, right? And they're like very fashionable.
My sister spent like 10 grand on her wig.
Yeah, but they're extremely fashionable. While let's say Satmar, I mean, a quarter of the women shave their heads, and if they wear a sheitel, it's gonna look like fake. Like Mabish, it'll look like you'll see stitches like a football. And they do that on purpose, and they look frumpy. So now, truth be told, other Hasidim are able to trim their beards. In Chabad, they got the Captain Caveman beard because they don't trim the beard. And that's because of the Balatanya. The Balatanya said that you're not allowed to trim your beard. I believe it's in Shulchan Aruch Harav.
Hey, I also have a caveman beard, but I'm not Chabad.
Yeah, but you trim your beard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw your video today. I mean, I never saw you. I thought you were a black guy. That's fine. Why is that funny?
Because I'm Russian. How am I black?
What do you mean? They were the black Russians, who fought the white Russians. So
I got a question, bro.
What?
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so in the Old Testament, there's a Holy Spirit or no?
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Yes, but it's not a separate entity from God. It's the Holy Spirit of God. I mean, why should one assume that it's a separate,
Is it an angel or is just...
Well, it's not an angel because at least angel in the Torah, which just means messenger. So 9 out of 10, or maybe 7 out of 10 times, they were human beings, just embellished. But or the rest were God themselves, meaning angels as messengers when they're not human beings, because the word malach would just means messenger, and sometimes it refers to people, and then in English we'll translate it as angel, but it's just messenger. For like at least 3% of the time, it's God himself as an avatar of God. I don't believe in the market,
you believe the Holy Spirit is God.
The?
You believe the Holy Spirit is God?
Well, I mean, I believe God is a spirit, right? And holy just means set apart. So when they say the Holy Spirit of God, it means the sanctified, set apart Spirit of God. I mean, set apart like from the world, but not, not a separate entity.
I don't know if we've been translating it right because it only uses that like one or two times in the entire Torah.
Well,
That
not
word,
ruach
the
hakodesh. It
Ruach
says
HaKodesh.
ruach a lot. So ruach it just means like wind.
Yeah, so that's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like God, right? It's just wind. That could mean who knows what it meant at the time when people were using it.
It's a roh.
What?
Yeah,
Is it
it's the
roh?
same like Arabic roh.
I
Yeah.
think al-ri, you mean ri, al-ruh is the same.
But in
No,
Arabic,
Hebrew ruach and Arabic roh is the same word. It's
No, al-ruh is the soul, al-ruh, but al-ri is the wind. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're right.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Welcome,
roh
Rami.
is soul.
We have a new guest,
Yeah.
Rami RV.
Hey, Rabbi
Good evening.
Asher, this is G.
So do you guys believe that you have the same God with the Christians?
Wait. Hold on. G? What do you mean G?
Mama G.
Brothers, I'll join you later. I'm going to break my
Mama
fast.
G.
Thank you for accepting me. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Brother Hafiz.
Okay, so
Good office.
Yeah, very nice.
How are you?
Oh
my God.
Acha.
Acha.
Thank
How are
you
you?
for tipping me the watches.
Yeah, are you enjoying those?
I'm actually wearing one now, but this is not and it's a different guys.
Oh, okay.
If you guys go to India, you'll come back with a lot of Rolex and Omega watches, for a very cheap price.
Great. I'm glad that you're enjoying that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, so next year, India and Pakistan. Allahu
Oh, okay.
Akbar. Peace be upon me. Yeah.
Wow, very good. Very nice.
Yeah. Well,
Huh?
are they real, Rabbi Asher? No, they're not.
bro, I want to speak Hebrew.
All right. Next topic, guys. Let's see.
Say I want to speak Hebrew.
He's got a really loud mic, Rami. You gotta mute yourself.
Oh, is it you, Rami? Yeah. There you go.
Rabbi, I say I want to speak Hebrew.
I have a friend who teaches it.
Huh? Can I learn it online?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know who. I mean, I have a friend who teaches Hebrew. Good. I mean, my Hebrew is more yeshivish. Have you ever considered becoming Jewish?
Nah, I'm good. I'm good with Islam.
So then I don't encourage you to learn Hebrew then.
I'm just doing it to debate Christians.
I don't know. Like the beef between Muslims and Christians, I think is completely irrational. Right? Completely irrational. Now, like if you want to attack them on the basis that they don't want to keep laws or articulate what laws they keep and don't keep, that's one thing. But arguing solely on the basis that they're primitive because they have God split up into pieces or a partnership, I think it's so trivial. It's so
you guys don't believe that God come in the human flesh, stuff like that?
No. Here, listen. I agree with the Islamic approach to God, okay? But I don't think it's such a principle of my religion. Nowhere in the Bible does God ever tell us to argue like for the sake of his unity, okay? He tells us not to argue, but to fight for the sake of decency. Meaning if someone is behaving unjustly and cruel to other people, that's where being religious kicks in, not just because someone has a different understanding of the complexity of God, right? It's a trivial notion. The reason the word of God is powerful is because it destroys evil, right? Believing that God has some sort of partnership is not evil. It may be philosophically primitive, right? Maybe because the Torah doesn't even have a word for monotheism. But it just seems like Islam had to solidify its existence somehow. And the only way they figured they could do it against Christianity is by making fun of the Trinity. Right. I don't know. I think it's a waste of time.
But Islam has a much better approach. You guys should do same thing Judaism does. You guys have laws just like we do, right? You follow majority of laws are the same anyway. They're almost identical. And this is where you should argue with Christians is how come they don't keep laws? Because that's much more important than, whether God is 3 or 1. Like that's not what makes somebody important to God, right? That's what they do. I think you guys believe same way, right? What God cares about is what you. So that's, I think, where the Christianity falls away, because they canceled all the laws and they do nothing.
I'm not sure who got the ball rolling in Islamic debates, because they just debate one topic. Well, two topics. Okay, Israel, Palestine. Okay, that's one, and the Trinity, and that's it. It's so silly.
I don't debate about. I debate about the Trinity sometimes, but I just debate about the Bible.
Okay, but
Not
do you think it's evil?
Huh?
Do you think it's evil, but to think that God might be a complex unity?
A Trinity?
A complex unity, like made up of segments that make up one God. But do you think that idea is evil, or it's just
like the unity of God, only one God?
No. So Christians believe in a Trinity, right? But they believe in one God, but God is made up of three components.
Yeah, I think that's evil.
You see, this is where we differ.
Yeah.
I think it's philosophically wrong, right? But evil is actually unaliving people, mistreating people, stealing from people, right? Encouraging disorder on this planet, right? I mean, physical disorder, like whatever, anarchy. But I think that if you're not able to distinguish what's evil from what may be just either unholy or unsound, then I think that's what makes your religion primitive.
Okay. So if they ask you today, like, to choose two religions between Christianity and Islam, which one are you going to choose?
Christianity.
Why?
Islam for me. I'm not picking Christianity. Sorry, Asher.
I mean, you guys don't have to agree with me. Guys, like the show, follow the host. Like the show, follow the host.
Why you want to choose Christianity?
Okay. I'll tell you why. Because Christians study my Bible. Thus, they worship my God if they keep the commandments in that Bible.
Oh, Jesus is your God now.
No, I don't believe in Jesus. I'm saying Christians study my Bible, which is...
They worship Jesus. You say you have the same God with them.
No, man, you don't understand.
Asher, then you have to give up the Torah and not keep laws. That's the problem.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. If the choice was becoming Muslim or becoming Christian, I'd become a Messianic Jew, which is a Christian who keeps laws. Okay,
that's not the choice he gave you, though.
Yeah, no, but you guys call them Christian all the time, so I'm pretty sure that but Christians also keep laws, but they just don't articulate where the laws come from.
You agree with Islam, the concept of God. You agree with Islam, but you want to be a Christian.
Because I think the Christian theology is superior, but I appreciate that Muslims keep a lot of our practices. But in terms of how they view God, I think Christians are closer than Muslims on a kosher understanding of God.
Bro, Christians believe in three gods.
Christians don't believe in three gods. Okay, ask them what they believe. They'll tell you they believe in one God.
They believe like three in one, but like that's three.
See, that itself is lying. Because we have to ask a Christian what they actually believe instead of just saying what they believe for them. I mean, idolaters in the past had no issue articulating what they actually believed. Yes, we believe in 10, 3, 2, but a Christian will tell you, no, we believe in one. That's why it's called a Trinity. It's making like some sort of unity of one. All right, so it's disingenuous to say what Christians, you're misrepresenting their beliefs just so you could toss them under the bus. So if you believe that God holds truth as a value, I mean, how could he even tolerate you doing that for the sake of good? Right? I don't. I don't
know, Asher, why you're defending Christians. They don't keep laws, so that's the problem.
They're not perfect. They do keep laws, by the way. I mean, every Christian tries to live an ethical existence. They don't keep ceremonial laws. The problem that I see with most traditional Christians, right, like Methodists, Presbyterians, whatever, is that they can't articulate where those laws actually come from. They say that we emulate someone who was holy enough, right, by keeping all these laws, so we emulate him. So what they're actually doing is keeping laws indirectly, but they're still keeping laws. It's hard to believe.
But I think you just you're defending them because you're used to defending them, but they don't keep laws, and they invent like ideology of God that never existed, and that's the problem.
Do the same thing also, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Muslims do the same thing also.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm saying like
I'm not saying Christianity is an alternative to Judaism. I'm just saying that okay. the best viable alternative to Judaism, if someone disliked Judaism, is first Christianity and then Islam. From my perspective, you could disagree, right?
I
But
disagree.
I think
So you rather eat pork than
You
so
don't.
if you become a
I'm a
Christian, you know you're
Christian.
gonna eat pig.
Hello, hi. I'm a
hi.
Christian, and I don't eat pork.
Yeah, but Courtney, you're like 1% of Christians who keep the law.
Yeah,
No,
that's
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 not
not
true.
majority.
If you
No,
follow
no,
the
it's certainly
Bible,
not
eat pork.
majority. It's not majority. However, there are different sects of groups of Christians that keep different laws. So most all Christians do their very best to live by at least the Big Ten. The difference is they believe that the Sabbath day is Sunday as opposed to Saturday. So they are keeping all the Big Ten to the best of their capabilities by also keeping Shabbos, but keeping it on Sunday.
But they don't
So,
keep Shabbos. They just say they go to church on Sunday. That's not keeping Shabbos.
wait. I
right,
mean,
because,
we can't expect them to believe in rabbinic Judaism. Okay, like we don't
right.
even bother to teach them rabbinic Judaism. I
Okay,
mean,
but just don't work. I mean, just 10 commandments already says do not work, right? It's that easy.
They do more than that. Reuven, I don't think your atheists do more than that even. I know tons of atheists that will literally go out of their way, stop on the side of the interstate, help someone that's like trying to collect their animal and return it back to their home. That's a
Okay, but
mitzvah.
that's not the only law, right? I mean,
but
that
anyways, I'm
Well,
not
it's
trying
not
to
that.
defend Christianity or Islam here. I'm just saying that between Christianity and Islam, I see Christianity as a greater force for good on this planet than Islam. I believe Judaism is better than both of those. I
You
don't
just
want you
speak
to believe in
Islam,
Jesus
bro.
or
You
Muhammad,
saying
right? But now I like Muslims more in terms of practice. I appreciate that Islam is a very masculine religion. I mean, I fancy myself a top G, right? I am kind of pissed off that top G became Muslim and not Jewish, whatever. But yes, convert to Judaism, and more. There's more converts to Judaism from Christianity than Islam, and there's a reason for that because Christianity is closer to Judaism. If it wasn't, there'd be more Muslims
this is
converting to
your
Judaism,
Bible,
but
but
it's
it's
so
not close to you.
detached.
Do
What?
you have any
Right.
statistics for that?
Well, I mean, as someone who has converted more than 1,000 people. I went to India twice, converted over 600 people. Every one of those were former Christians. Everyone, right? I've never even converted. Oh, I converted one former Muslim. They just don't convert because they think that, you see, when a Christian believes in your Bible, he could come to the realization that his Bible is false, but that only leaves yours as true. If a Muslim stops believing in the Quran, he drops the whole system because he believed that was God's word encapsulated. That's it. There's nothing outside of that. They view the New Testament and the Jewish Bible with Islamic lenses. This is why once someone becomes Muslim and they leave religion, they typically become atheist. And same thing with
Muslim
Judaism.
become
But
atheist.
that's not what I
Same
asked.
thing.
Like, I asked if you had a statistic with regards to Christians that leave Christianity and go to Judaism more than Islam.
Oh, well,
Do you
there are
have
no
a
statistics
statistic
for
for that?
conversion because there aren't too many people converting. But as someone who's converted more people than anyone alive, I'll tell you, the average Christian converts more than the average Muslim. Yeah, it's
Yeah, but
just
that's based off of your own personal
yeah,
experience.
for
You can't
sure.
just limit
Yeah,
that to like the entire
No,
world.
Itachi, you misunderstand. He means that more people will convert from Christianity into Judaism than from Islam into Judaism.
I would disagree
listen.
with that based off of my own experience as well. I
Okay,
mean,
so there are no
Okay,
conversions
sounds
around the
like we
world.
have two anecdotal answers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's why I asked for a statistic because I'm not
yeah.
going to say that that's
No, I
a
think that I
statistic.
am a source, by the way. I mean, as someone, I mean, I'm more involved in conversion to Judaism than anyone alive. You can't convert to Judaism in 90% of the world, by the way. You could only convert to Judaism in Australia, Canada, England, and the U.S. That's it. You know, because Israel has outlawed conversions almost everywhere. You know, so in terms of, these are mainly Christian countries, first of all. And forget about a Muslim converting to Judaism because he'd be killed. So, I mean, for that reason also,
According to
Muslims don't
what?
convert to,
Oh,
what?
what are you talking about?
According to what?
According to Islamic law.
Yeah, do you have the law?
Okay. Islamic practice. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you know
So
that in
do you have that
Pakistan,
practice?
in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, a Muslim cannot convert to
That's
any other
based off of
religion.
culture. That's not based off of actual Islam. Culture is not relative
Okay,
to what the
whatever.
actual religion
It's, just
teaches.
it's Islamic culture. Okay.
It's
Just like
not
there's,
Islamic culture. It's the culture of that
but it's what
country or
Muslims do.
region.
What's the difference? Everybody knows I can't
But
proselytize to a
again,
Muslim. What?
yeah, but okay, so like that's like me saying that a Jew, right, a radical Jew is going
Yeah,
and
but you're
killing
changing the
somebody because
topic
they
here.
stop. I'm
By the
not
simple fact,
changing the topic.
this is how Muslims view it. right?
No, it's not. I'm a Muslim right here.
Okay.
Ibarra is
So
also
your
a
point
Muslim.
is that my statistics were off, because it's my personal opinion, and that possibly more Muslims convert to Judaism than Christians. I mean, that's your
Where?
first stance.
No,
And then
you
I
can
said,
keep your opinion. I'm not saying anything about your
oh,
opinion. I was asking about a specific statistic because you said it as if it was fact.
correct. And I said that I am that source,
Okay, no
but in
problem. So
life,
that you
things
could
either
have that.
confirm the obvious or are typically wrong.
Okay,
By
and
the simple
the
fact,
second thing that you said,
wait, no,
right?
I said that by a simple fact that virtually every Islamic country, right, doesn't allow Muslims to convert to other religions,
My country
No,
is
shows that
95% Muslim, so you can convert if you want to Christianity, no matter.
in America
It
you
doesn't
could,
matter.
not in Islamic countries.
no. Okay, so hold on. First of all, when it comes to Islam, it's not just something that you do based off of the tongue. It's something based off the tongue and the intention of the heart. This is very clear in Islam itself, right?
What does that have
So
to
if
do
the
with
person,
anything?
hold
What
on,
does that have to do with
I'm
anything?
getting to that point, right? I'm getting to that point. If the
Mhm.
person is saying it by tongue that I'm a Muslim, but in their heart they say they're a Christian, right? Simply for the fact that they just stop believing in Islam, if that even happens, right? They're not going to be like killed, even if it's the case that they even say it with their tongue that I've left Islam and I've become a Christian. You're still not going to be killed, right? The only people that were like historically with regards to what Islam actually says regarding that narrative is only people who go and try to sort of wage war against Islam itself, right? Start preaching Christianity in the Islamic country. That's what Islamic law says. It doesn't say that every single person that leaves Islam has to be
Okay, but
killed.
I don't care what Islamic law says. I care
You
what
just
Muslims
said you
do.
made a
Doesn't
claim about Islamic law,
No,
right? The person does not represent what the
Okay.
actual religion
Islamic
says.
countries. See, I mean, how's that completely non sequitur? Okay, I said the reason there aren't too many Muslim converts to Judaism is that, first of all, you can't convert in the vast majority of the world. And in Islamic countries, they don't allow Muslims to convert to any other religion. They have to remain Muslim. Whether that's part of Islamic law, it's a non sequitur. This is what Muslims do, and this is what they encourage. And if you ask any Muslim, what occurs if somebody leaves Islam? They'll say haram, haram, haram. Now, the average Jew will say it's disappointing, like if a Jew becomes a Christian, but no one's going to harm this individual. Okay, I mean,
not
if
Israel.
a Sunni Muslim became a Shiite Muslim, there'd be violence. So it's not news to your ears here, right? I mean, don't make it sound like we're comparable. We're morally comparable, Jews, Muslims, and Christians. The
Yeah, but
reason
if you're attributing, okay, I hear what you're saying. The problem in what you're saying is that you're equating what people do as opposed to what the religion actually states,
I
right?
don't
So
care what the
just because,
religion states. Islamic
okay, so then
societies.
you're not actually, okay, hold on, because there's no such thing as quote unquote, first of all, you're saying Islamic countries. None of the Islamic quote unquote countries that you were quoting, such as Saudi Arabia, such as Iran, etc., are actually following based off of Islamic law,
Okay,
right? They're following.
that's a non
Can
sequitur.
can I finish the sentence,
No,
please?
not if it's a non. Okay, you're a
It's
bit.
not a non sequitur. It's based off of the claims that you're making, and they're very fallacious.
The claim I was making was to justify your initial statement that I have no proof or no statistical evidence that more Christians convert to Judaism
That
than
still would
Muslims
not be
convert to
proof.
Judaism. And then
That
I
would
gave.
still not be
Okay,
proof.
no, I was backing up why I made that claim, and I said that it doesn't help the argument that the average Muslim, right, or the average Islamic country does not allow you to leave Islam to convert to another religion. And then you're saying, well, that's not part of Islam, but this is what Muslim countries do. So who cares whether it's part of Islam or not? There's a lot of things that Jews do that are not, that is not part of Judaism, but for some reason you would attribute all Jews with that action. For some reason,
But now you're forcing an opinion on me. Like I'm
I'm
not
telling you
saying
what
anything with
most
regards
Muslims
to
do.
Jews.
Okay, not you in particular, but people like you. Okay,
Yeah,
the
but like
average.
why why don't
Okay,
you speak
so
about the actual things?
the average Muslim, when discussing Zionism and the state of Israel, will lump Jews all together as Zionists. I mean, the issue is very complex, but you lump us together. And I get it because there's collective responsibility, but you're denying collective responsibility. You're saying that if the Quran doesn't say it, it doesn't speak for what Muslims do. It's not true. What Muslims do defines Islam. That's it.
Okay.
See,
Asha, are you done? Can I just get a sentence, please?
I mean, as long as it correlates with what I was saying, please.
Okay. So why are you like, okay, no offense, right? But why are you like discussing what people do as opposed to what the religions actually teach? No offense.
Because we're talking about people converting to Judaism,
Yeah,
not
but
how close
even
Islam
that,
is
you
with
even
Judaism.
said you said out of your own mouth, right, that there is no actual statistic that you could pull on this. You're only saying things based off of things that you may experience or you may
Correct.
hear or you may read
Correct.
about, right?
Correct.
But those things are still subjective to what
Right.
you yourself
This is why I'm
experience.
giving examples. That's it.
Yeah, but
I was
again,
just giving
like even
examples.
those examples would still be things that you experience. But regardless, I mean, I don't think
The
this
reason,
conversation
okay,
benefits anything.
examples equal evidence, right? And then with evidence, you could form sort of statistics. These are how
Of
statistics
course,
are built.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's it.
So then somebody would have to conduct that study, actually gather the evidence,
fine.
etc., etc.
Do you have any examples?
I don't need examples. I'm
Okay,
saying that
so you just came to
this
disrupt,
in and of
obviously.
itself. Hold on. I'm saying this in and of itself is not a proof for anything
I
until
never
it's
said it was
actually
proof.
standardized.
I never said it was proof. There's
You're saying
evidence and there's
examples
proof.
equal evidence.
Okay, there's evidence and there's proof, right? Okay, so that's it.
So do you believe that more Christians are converting to Islam? You believe he's wrong?
Doesn't matter what my belief is.
I'm asking.
Judaism.
So I'm asking.
What my belief is?
No,
personally,
come on. That's definitely true. More Christians are converting to Islam than to Judaism. That's not an argument. But
Yeah.
but I don't think that's the argument Asher was making also.
Right, I said that more Christians are converting to Judaism than Muslims are converting to Judaism. That's it.
Yeah, that's a different argument altogether.
Some people just want to argue for the sake of arguing. I mean, I like Islam and I like Christianity. I just like Judaism more, right? But there's collective responsibility. What Jews do speaks for Judaism, unfortunately. Okay, it doesn't speak for Torah, but it speaks for Judaism.
Yo, Rabbi, you rather be pagan than be a Muslim?
What?
You rather be pagan?
Christians are not pagan. Come on.
All right.
By that same
that's a silly
standard,
statement.
by that same standard, Muslims are also pagan.
Correct.
according to what?
According to the Talmud.
According to Jewish law.
According to what Jews believe the Tanakh says, that would make you also a pagan.
But Reuben here believes that we believe in the same God.
It doesn't matter. You practice differently. You're not even a sister
That doesn't
religion
make
to
you a
Judaism.
pagan.
Let me finish. Hold on. You're not even a sister religion to Judaism. You are a cousin religion.
Okay. Let's clarify first. There is no such thing as pagan in Judaism. No, hold on. But there is no such thing as pagan. That's a Christian concept. Pagan is not something that Torah discusses, right? Are you saying idol worshiping? Then neither are idol worshiping, neither Christianity nor Islam. So it's a weird argument. I don't know why we're even discussing that.
Okay, so pagan
actually,
okay.
But worshiping a man is pagan. So
pagan means of another nation.
Right. Well, it's anything not endorsed by the Torah, outside of the Torah. Like just like the Orient was anything east of London, right? Pagan is anything not endorsed by your religion, right? It doesn't necessarily even have to be the Torah. Now, the word avodah zarah doesn't appear in the Torah. It's like avodat elilim or avodat pesilim, like worshiping other gods or worshiping literal statues. According to Jewish law, Islam is pagan, from my perspective. Maimonides would disagree.
Okay, how?
What?
Simply because it's not the same as a different religion other than what he practices. But you're using like the actual literal definition. When people say pagan, they're referring to the actual practice that's being done, right? Like what the word pagan is associated with, right? Paganism being that they follow like more than one deity, for example.
No, that's not. No, wait a minute. That's actually not true. Okay,
I'm saying there's a difference between the literal and colloquial definition between the two terms, right? So
pagan has
there's
nothing
different
to do,
ways in which it's used.
Pagan has nothing to do with worshiping one or two deities. Okay, that you can
I understand that. I'm saying that the literal definition does not mean that. The colloquial definition, whereas when we're using it in conversation, sometimes people associate it as being somebody who worships more than one deity, right? Such as polytheism, right?
Only
That's what
according
it's
to Islam.
usually associated with.
Only according to Islam.
I'm not talking about Islam. Islam does not say anything with regards to paganism. It talks about polytheism.
Right. I never use the word
pagan. No, but look, hold on real quick. If somebody worships one god, but that god is a turtle, he's a monotheist, but he's still a pagan, right?
It would be classified as a heathen, which is it's like a synonym for pagan.
If you worship something other than God, you're a pagan. So Christian is pagan.
But Christians worship.
Stop attacking Christians on such a silly, simplistic notion. Because every religion is going to think that every other religion is pagan. So asking me, how can I support paganism? Because you're convinced that Islam is paganism. First, discuss why you think Islam or Christianity is pagan. Okay, just by calling it a name, doesn't help anybody.
That's actually why I came up. I wanted to address one thing that you said with regards to the fact that saying saying Christians believe in multiple gods or whatever is a misrepresentation of their belief. Obviously, it's a misrepresentation of the belief, but if one is able to actually come to the understanding or the conclusion logically that this belief is not internally coherent, right? You can substantiate the fact that it's incorrect. So saying that you should not say it just because that's what they believe, it's not a matter of belief or disbelief. It's a matter of what's logically coherent or isn't. So
now you have to find logic.
Right. Nowhere in the Torah would they tell us to represent or defend God's word on the basis of it being logical. Because if that's the case, I mean, with the idea of an illiterate man in some way compiling a work is completely illogical. But you believe it
That's
because
not
it's part of your religion.
illogical. There's a difference between logic, right, where with regards to the laws of physics, logic, etc., and there's a difference between nature, right? Nature is telling you that things are possible or near impossible, right? There's not that doesn't follow with regards to logic or
I'm not
illogical.
sure.
Illogical is with regards to because
No.
this is philosophy, right?
Right.
Logical and illogical means
Mhm.
something can either exist or not exist, right? Impossible and possible means that there's a possible, obviously, meaning that there's a possibility for it to work. Impossibility meaning it cannot exist, right? So when it comes to the laws of nature, such as an individual who is, for example, illiterate, like you were saying, right, comprising a book, right, with all of these different things, a linguistic miracle, some say, right?
Right.
This is not an impossibility,
The
nor is it.
idea is
Hold on.
illogical.
No,
The idea
because
that
again,
someone
you're
who's
using the
illiterate could
terminology.
write is illogical.
That's why
Okay.
I'm correcting you, because you're using the
No,
terminology incorrectly. Right?
I'm not sure where you got your definition from. Okay.
Because illogical literally means that something cannot exist definitionally. That's what the word
Not that
illogical
something
means.
okay. Then an act cannot be done. You believe it's illogical that one God could be represented in three persons, but for some reason you don't
Yeah,
think it's
because I
illogical
can.
to make the claim that a human who can't read will write a book at the same time. Both claims are in some way equally illogical.
Okay, so because
Okay,
first of all,
like
it's a straw man of the. Hold on, because it's a straw man of the position. Firstly, for the. Hold on, because
you're giving this
you keep
definition,
jumping
yeah,
in.
but it's your definition, because
I'm literally trying to define it, and then you're telling me that I'm defining it wrong.
you're trying to define it. That's not the actual
Yeah,
definition.
according to, I could pull it up
Your
for you
argument
for
is
the
that
same
everything in the
exact way.
Quran is logical, right? That's your
No,
argument.
that's not my argument. I'm
Okay.
literally telling you based off of the Stanford Dictionary, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, right? They will define for you what logical and illogical means when it comes to
Okay.
discussing these things in a philosophical sense, right? Logical and illogical is referring to.
Read it.
Okay, no problem.
All right, go
It's
ahead.
referring to the three classical laws of logic, okay?
Okay.
And bro, you made a mistake, bro. Prophet Muhammad didn't write the Quran.
Yeah, that's why I said it was a straw man of the position as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what classical logic is defined as in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It says, typically, a logic consists of a formal or informal language together with a deductive system and or a model theoretic semantics. The language has components that correspond to a part of a natural language like English or Greek. The deductive system is to capture, codify, or simplify record arguments that are valid for the given language, and the semantics is to capture, codify, or record the meanings or truth conditions for at least part of the language, right? And then it discusses different sections with regards to that. I mean, it's a pretty long thing if you want to actually
still
learn
waiting
about
for
it.
it, by the way.
Which essentially
still
just
waiting.
means irrational. Illogical means irrational. It doesn't
Correct.
mean
That
it
was the
can't
definition for
exist.
logic, if you heard me. Right?
Correct.
Classical
That-
logic. That's what people refer to when you actually like discuss logic and
That
illogical.
definition did not support your argument at all, by the way. Okay.
This was a brief to the actual thing.
Okay,
right?
fine.
You know what
so
classical
you
logic
can't find
is?
the actual thing because it doesn't exist like that. Okay.
Okay, so do you know what classical logic is when discussing philosophy?
No. Here, answer my question. Is there anything in the Quran that's illogical?
No, of course not.
Okay,
And
there we
why?
go.
Wait,
so
why?
I mean,
Why? But you don't want to ask me why, though, right?
no, I
Because
don't care
there's-
why. You
Okay.
know,
It's
because-
not based off of an intrinsic understanding. It's based off of an extrinsic resource, right? The extrinsic
okay.
resource being what? Being what?
no. But you're convinced that it's true. So of course,
That's not why.
you're going to
I'm not-
articulate
I'm
it
not
in a
just
way.
blind
Okay.
follower.
Is there anything in the New Testament that's illogical?
In the New Testament?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I can
Okay.
pull it up for
So
you.
Thing, bro.
No, it's not. But again, you're saying that I'm basing this off of the Quran. I'm not basing it off of the Quran. I'm basing it off of the three classical laws of logic. This is how we actually deduce answers.
you
The
haven't
three classical
articulated
laws
those
of logic-
laws as a way of it aligning with
Okay,
your
so
outcome.
do you want me to state the laws for you? Like, it's
I
not
gave
difficult.
I gave you an opportunity to read, and for some reason, I guess you skipped the portion that justifies your claim. So let's just move on. I believe that the New Testament is illogical, the Quran is illogical, and the Jewish Bible is also illogical. Fine, there's a lot of things I believe in faith that
I
actually
believe
make
the
no sense
Torah
to
is
me.
According
And
to
I
what,
think
though? Like, you're
that
just
makes me-
saying that.
What do you mean?
You're just saying that. You're not actually like I'm trying to substantiate it, and you keep
No,
interrupting me.
you have blind faith by the simple fact that you believe everything in the
What?
Quran is logical, right? We're still dealing with religion here. I don't think you're going to win over any inquisitive college kids on that basis, saying that everything in your religion is
I
logical.
literally am a college kid. I'm literally 22 in
You
college
may
studying
be a college
philosophy
kid,
and philosophy
okay?
of religion.
All right, but you're not a very inquisitive college kid then.
Brother, I literally am about to, I'm literally going into my medical degree. So,
How can someone who believes a religion that's an offshoot of Christianity and Judaism believe that their religion is fully logical?
yeah,
That
that's a
means,
post
i.e.,
hoc fallacy.
rational and in some way provable.
That's called a post hoc fallacy.
No,
Just because
that's called
A
a
came
statement of
before.
faith and a
Okay,
creed.
you can look it
No, I'm
up.
just saying.
Post hoc fallacy. Yeah, so if
Oh
you
my
want me to
God.
actually finish the sentence, a post
Like
hoc
using
fallacy.
these, okay. Using
I'm literally
fancy
defining
terms.
it for you. I'm defining it for you
No,
because I'm aware that
explain
some
it.
people are
Okay.
not. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
No. I mean,
I'm aware that some people don't actually know the terms. That's why I define them right after. Right.
what's the point of even using the term? Just give a descriptive idea of what you're talking about.
Just
By
because
the simple
A
fact that
came
you believe the
before B.
Quran is completely logical, I think hurts your argument for anyone who's not a Muslim. Okay.
No offense, but I think that you're getting really emotional when I'm literally
No,
trying
you
to
keep on
have
repeating the
a
same
proper
thing.
discussion with you. No, I haven't
I'm
gotten any
open-minded to
emotions at all.
here, look.
I've literally been trying to actually have a proper discussion with you, but every single time, like
But you're
you said, oh,
closed-minded by the
you're
simple fact
illogical.
there's holes in the
Yeah,
Torah.
that way.
There's holes in the New Testament. In
I'm
Tanakh,
not
there's holes, but
talking
there's
about
no
that
holes in the
though.
Quran. You know, I mean, you
Okay,
are a
but if you want to
believer.
pull one out, you could do that
What?
of the Quran. Pick out a hole in the Quran.
A hole for sure. But the idea that Mary, the sister of like Moses, had any relation to Jesus.
Okay, no problem.
Why they call Jesus son of David?
No, hold on. Because people think that we don't have the actual answers of this with regards to that.
I
Okay.
mean, this is not.
So
Hold on.
yeah,
I mean, this
no
whole thing is not
problem.
about
We
you
have
looking up for the answer
so
online.
here's
I'm just telling
something
you
that
what
you
you
don't.
know.
Okay, so I asked you to pick out a hole. Are you gonna allow me to answer it?
Yeah, okay, answer it, but I'm not going to give you a chance to just Google it up.
No, I'm not Googling it. I already know the answer. I'm giving you the hadith that answers your question, right? Or answers your quote
For the
unquote
Torah.
hole,
Okay.
because
All
it's
right.
not a question. Okay.
Okay, go
So the
ahead.
hadith specifically says what? Hadith on Maryam, why Mary is called sister of Aaron. This is coming from the Prophet, peace be upon him. Mughira ibn Shu'bah reported, when I came to Najran, the Christian monks asked me, you recite the verse, O sister of Aaron, in Surah Maryam, verse 28. But Moses was born long before Jesus by many years. When I came back to the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, I asked him about it, and he said, verily they used to name people with the names of prophets and righteous people who had passed before them. This is in Sahih Muslim 2135. We
There's a
have
distinction
answers
between
for
hadith and the Quran. You're not making that distinction. It's equivalent to me quoting the Talmud to justify an error in the Torah.
No,
So
because it's
you acknowledge
okay, hold on.
that from the outset. No,
I
hold
can
on. No,
substantiate it.
I let you talk. Hold on one second.
Okay, go ahead.
You acknowledge that if someone only had the Quran alone, they'd view it as an inconsistency. But because of commentary, you're able to in some way use that as an extension of the Quran. You're not allowed to do that, just like I'm not allowed to use Rashi or the Rambam to explain what I would consider are inconsistencies in the Torah.
No.
I mean, you don't.
No, because first of all, the Quran specifically states in chapter 62, verse 2, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعْثَ فِي الْأُمِّينَ, it is he who sent amongst the unlettered nations a messenger from amongst themselves to recite to them the verses, to purify them, and to teach them the book and wisdom. So the messenger is specifically the one that's giving the teaching of the book and wisdom. Hadith
That's
is not
what I said.
Hold on.
I said the Quran.
I'm explaining.
We're not Muslim.
The verse. I'm not asking if you're Muslim or not. I'm
That we
explaining
don't
the
care
verse.
what the hadith says. Okay, I
because
specifically said the Quran. Why are you quoting the hadith? The hadith is essentially a commentary.
That's what I'm explaining, but you're
No.
really jumpy.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to repeat the question. Okay. There are errors in the Quran. When you said, no, they're not. Find one. I found one, and you gave me a commentary on that's not what it means. But that's not what the Quran
That's
says.
the misunderstanding I'm trying to explain.
It's
Hadith
a misunderstanding
is not
to anyone who's not Muslim. Do you understand that?
Hadith is not commentary to sir. Respectfully, you're misrepresenting the religion now, because hadith is not commentary.
It's a commentary to everyone who's non-Muslim. Just like the Talmud. Here, look. If someone holds portions of the Talmud as an extension of Torah, and they believe that those portions were given to Jews on Mount Sinai, they would never expect a non-Jew to believe that. But you're expecting non-Jews to be satisfied with your response only because you believe the hadith is an extension to the Quran.
That's why I'm showing you that the Quran itself vouches for the hadith, right?
Oh my gosh.
That's literally what I'm showing you.
You told me to find a hole. I found a hole. I guess you're acknowledging that the
not a
Quran
word.
doesn't
That's not a
answer
mistake, bro.
that fallacy on its own. It needs another book to help
Because,
it. We don't believe
first
in
of
that
all, I
book.
don't even think you know when you're using that word, because how is that a fallacy? That's not a fallacy, right? You're saying that it's an inconsistency. That's not the same thing as a fallacy. Okay.
You're
The
playing with words
Quran,
now. This
once
is
again,
completely
yeah, because
semantics.
you're
To assume that
misrepresenting
Jesus
the
is
usage of the word.
related to the sister of Moses, right? That Miriam, his mother, is the same Miriam, the sister of Moses, and the Quran itself can't fix that error, then there's a
Quran
hole in the
doesn't say
Quran,
that.
and that's just one.
The
Okay,
Quran
that's
does
just
not
one.
say that. The Quran doesn't say anything with regards to her being the sister of Moses. It specifically calls her Ukhta Harun, right? Now, with that understanding, that comes with regards to the traditions of the Arabs and the Jews, right? They do not, first of all, we did not have something called last names, right? We specifically went by what? We specifically went by things such as
Assalamu alaikum
this
warahmatullahi
person.
shalom. What's
Walaikum
up, guys?
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we specifically go by what? We go by, for example, my name, I would be Itachi bint who's whatever. My father's name and his father's
Okay,
name, etc.,
continue. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So the Quran, when it's saying this, first of all, it doesn't say anything about her being the sister of Moses. It's linking her back to Aaron. Okay. Now we have the explanation with regards to the Hadith, which we also understand from the Quran itself to be the word of God. Right?
It
It's the
doesn't
word
matter
of
what
God
you
given to
accept. I said in the Quran, you said find the hole in the
Yeah,
Quran.
but Asher,
Again,
with
but
all
that's
due
the
respect,
tradition
brother,
of
with all
Muslims.
due respect, brother, Hadith and Quran go together. Like that's
I
what you have to
understand, but that's not
understand.
what
It's
she
not.
said.
But
Look,
that's what
Yes,
she's trying to explain to you.
no,
But
but
you
I don't
keep.
care. The
But
Talmud goes
okay,
along with the
if you
Torah.
listen,
Okay,
Asher,
no.
if you're gonna be emotional, then be emotional. But she's trying to explain it.
The definition of a fanatic is someone who thrusts the theological tenets of their religion on people who are not in their religion. Okay? When you're arguing your religion from an academic perspective, you're limited to your source material from the macro level. The Quran versus the Torah. I'm not going to use the Talmud to justify the Torah because I know you don't believe in the Talmud. So then what's the point of using the Hadith to give an authoritative response to an error, to a clear inconsistency?
That is not true. If it's the
Can I
case,
try?
for example, I have discussions with Reuven, right?
All right, forget about it. You
So,
know,
hold on.
I mean, we're going in
I
circles
wanted
here.
to find a common ground because we have a common ground. It's just the argument is the wrong argument. We all have the text, and then we have the exegesis, the understanding of the text. That's impossible to read any kind of text by any human without putting interpretation in it from the mind of that human. And so, what one person reads could be. Could look like a conflict to the other person. There's no conflict. That's all it is. It's an interpretation, and that's how we have to look at every text. So we have to agree.
Wait, hold on. I mean, that's not true. That's a text of your religion, okay? But when you're trying to decide what's true and what's false, you can't allow other religions time to save face. If their text says something,
but look, if I'm going to read Torah and you're going to read Torah and Courtney going to read Torah, we're going to have different understanding of the passages we're going to read, right?
But the validity of those passages should stand on whether they make sense or not without a commentary.
But they make sense to a human reading it, right? So they to you in another way, to Courtney in the third way, and to Itachi in the fourth way.
Okay, all right.
So the meaning depends on the reader, right?
No, because that wasn't the challenge, right? But the challenge is, she told me to find the hole in the Quran, not as explained by some later sheikh or imam, because that could be the same thing. I could tell her, find the hole in the Torah. Oh, well, God has a face. You know, God wrestled a man. And I'll be like, well, Maimonides said that it didn't happen that way. And then she's going to tell you, I said the Torah, not Maimonides. You understand that? But for some reason, we're supposed to change the rules of dialogue and debate for Muslims.
No, I'm not disagreeing from that perspective. What I'm saying is we all have interpretative understanding. So when you asked the question, she gave you the interpretive understanding.
No, that wasn't, no.
But you didn't want to accept that interpretive understanding.
Her response should have been built on the Quran alone, because she made the claim that the Quran is not illogical, right? It's perfectly logical, and that there are no errors or no contradictions or no holes in the Quran. And then she told me, find one. I found
But there's no such thing as Quran alone, just like there's no such thing as Torah alone. We're not Karaites, right?
Okay, but that's not what she said. Like, she said the Quran. Like, she didn't say the Hadith. You understand? to people who are not Muslim, when they're coming to the religion, they're going to study the Quran to validate it as an outlet, an ethical outlet, or whatever reason they're choosing to join a religion for. Okay, it's not fair, to in some way include the arguments in the Talmud to in some way fill in the gaps or remove the warts that happen to appear in the Torah. Okay,
but that's how everybody does it, right? We don't do Torah on a pshat alone, right?
Not when you're debating other religions. When you're debating other religions and the challenge is made, find it in the Quran. You can't in some way find the definition, right, for what I think is a fallacy in another book.
Right? Okay, but hold on. You yourself made this comment before that you don't agree with Tovia Singer because he debates like a Karaite, right? So how is that not the same thing that you're trying to ask for here? Because you want her to debate as Quranist, not as Islamist.
Tovia Singer is teaching people who believe in Judaism, right? This is why they're listening to Tovia Singer. Now, if he's being dishonest to secular people, right? That when someone says that, to give an example, where I'm against Tovia Singer on, he'll say that the understanding of Satan in Christianity is not the same understanding of Satan in Judaism. Okay, he himself believes in a Satan that's virtually identical to the one in Christianity, right? Every Kabbalist does who knows anything about metaphysical literature, like Post Zohar and Sefer Bahir. That's not the same as a Jewish person arguing with someone who's Muslim who makes a claim that his religion is perfectly logical, and to prove it, for me to find a hole in their Quran.
But they don't. Their religion is not Quran alone.
Okay. I don't hear Courtney. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So what she was probably most likely going to say is that this is also an extension of the Quran, and not all hadiths are. Some hadiths are considered by Muslims to be, I guess, fake of some sort. But with that being said, I think that was what she was getting on, that it was from the Prophet, etc., so on and so forth. And so it is likened unto the same. Whereas in your mind, you're hearing that as, oh, it's likened unto the Talmud. And you didn't ask me for that. You asked me for finding something specifically in the theological book, which in this term would be the Quran in your eyes. And for her, it'd be both.
Yeah, it would be kind of like, because they believe that hadith is an extension of the Quran, right? It's not a separate thing.
Yeah, but she didn't say that.
No, it's not an extension of the Quran.
No, that's what she believes, yeah.
Is our Torah. They think it's the divine word of God, and the hadith are stories about things Muhammad did and said, or clarifications of, legal aspects of the Quran and behavior and things with, it expands. It's like the Torah. The Torah has the oral Torah, because if you just read the Torah, some things are vague or unexplained, or there's not enough clarity as to what it means. And you have the oral Torah, which helps clarify, what, keep the Sabbath. Okay, great. What does that mean? The hadiths are the same thing in a sort of, in that they clarify things in the Quran that have a little vagary to them.
Yeah,
but they believe it's like the oral Torah that was received at Sinai, right? They like how Chabad believes that Torah was on Sinai, right? They believe the Hadith is divinely given also.
Kinda, because 90% of the Hadiths are just like nothing. Like they're just telling a story. Like Muhammad went and prayed, and he did 2 rakat, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, so many of them don't say anything, and then a very small percentage of them actually lay down some sort of clarification of it. It's just like, well, wait a second, I didn't get to my main point. But all right.
Yeah, that's not even the argument. Okay.
Okay, hold on. I
didn't get to my main argument. I don't care about what hadiths are. I don't care about what my main argument which was relating back to you, is about this idea about errors or logic within the holy books, or in this case, we're talking about the Quran. I mean, I don't think any reasonable, rational person can say that miracles are rational. That's kind of what makes them miracles, right? And you were talking about logic. Well, it's not logical. Well, hold on, let me finish. Yeah, but logic is you're trying to get overly technical because you're in college and you're learning a lot of big words and you want to show everybody how smart you are. But for those of us, hold on, stop interrupting. Stop. Let me finish. But logic for those of us in the real world on a day-to-day basis is very easily defined. Is it logical if it makes sense to a reasonable person? That's what logical is.
Sorry, 1 second. Itachi, people in comments saying that they can't hear you. You probably need to jump off and come back.
Can you hear me now or no?
Yes.
No, I think there's no. We hear you. I think everybody can hear.
It's people in comments. Everybody saying they can't hear her.
Drop her and bring
Hear
her
me or who?
No, just don't worry about it. Just ignore it.
No, Itachi, they couldn't hear her. Sometimes it glitches like that on TikTok.
Okay. Like I can point to many things in the Torah that I find totally illogical. And I've had this conversation with Asher and with my rabbi, and this is my challenge and my struggle, is believing some of these things that just don't make sense, because to me, it's not logical that a human being can go up a mountain and sit there for 40 days and 40 nights with no food and water and live. That's not logical, okay? And there are definitely parts of the Quran that are not logical, and that's where faith comes in, because faith comes in when logic becomes illogic, and that's okay. But there's this pride thing about Islam that everything has to be the truth. I'm sorry, the moon was not split in half. It absolutely was not. It never happened. The effects that it would have on the earth would be catastrophic if you cut the moon in half. It's not logical, but it's okay.
She requested again, Asher.
Wait, hold on.
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me if you. And when I have these discussions with Muslims and Christians, I say to them, look, if you start a sentence with "I believe," that's it. There's nothing to discuss. There's nothing to debate. If that's your belief,
let's go back to what I was actually talking about, okay? Because I have a problem when Jews, Christians, or Muslims say that their religion is perfectly logical and they could justify any supposed error in their book, right? And most Jews have no issue acknowledging that there's some things in their Bible that make no sense, okay? Christians, I don't know, right? So that's the argument. And she said, find the hole in the Quran. Now, she may have thought she was talking to a Muslim who in some way would believe that even if something looks like a hole, it's not a real hole. That's not how you should treat opponents of different religions. That's a definition of a fanatic, okay? They're not even able to make a distinction between people inside their religion and people outside of their religion. I would never, in some way, if someone is critiquing the Jewish Bible, I would never quote the Talmud and say, well, most Jews believe the Talmud is an extension to the Torah. They were critiquing the Torah, not the Talmud. I don't care what the average Muslim believes. If someone says, take your bet shot at the Quran, but the only way they could explain the supposed hole in it is by bringing another book, right? That's the error here. That's it. There's no point of defining what.
Well, no, the fact that you have to use a secondary source to prove your primary source, that your original document makes sense, is in and of itself an argument that there's a hole. Now, a hole doesn't mean it's the end of the religion, or that you lose faith, or that everything else necessarily falls apart on top of it. It's the same concept that they just can't acknowledge, that some things are vague or don't make a lot of sense, or maybe they made sense at the time, but they don't make sense to our modern sensibilities or modern understanding of things. And so we have these other texts that help explain some of the things that don't make sense. But no, you can't. For them, it is fanatical. It makes sense. It's the truth. And it's like, if there's anything in there, like people come to me all the time on these lives. Oh, this part about Judaism doesn't make sense. Or what about this? Or what about that? And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It doesn't make sense. What do you want from me? Talk to God. It's okay. It doesn't shake the foundations of my understanding of the faith.
I gave her an opportunity
to look
online.
Perfectly.
I gave her an opportunity to look online and find the definition and read it. I mean, she couldn't find this definition that aligned with her understanding. She throws so many non sequiturs just to, in some ways, sound sophisticated, but there's no substance there. Okay? I mean, I'm honest enough. I say it every day. I would convert to Islam if it made me a better person and if it made more sense than Judaism. But any fanatic who walks around trying to convince me that their Bible is perfect just because they happen to have bought into that ideology, I mean, I'm sorry, belongs to a primitive belief system. At least a Jewish person could continue worshiping God even though he has problems with God, even though he struggles with God. Oh no, but Islam has to whitewash every one of the prophets, right? If it says that Noah drank and got drunk, he would never have done that, right? So we're going to fix it in the Quran, and people think that's superior. And the only people that wins over are people who would have come anyways, which are not what we're looking for, okay? Or we'll take them too, by the way, okay? But we prefer people who are honest about their beliefs. And someone who comes out here and says that a religion is purely logical when it's mainly faith-based and it's built off of heaven and hell and miracles, come on. I mean, that person's not being intellectually honest. That's it.
But see, I want to be on the same point, though, because we have a system of belief and we arguing from that system of belief. So you have to let the other person, when they're defining their belief.
Okay. But Dennis Prager said that he prided himself never to bring down Talmudic sources for defining portions in his rational Bible. Why? Because when you're discussing your belief system with people not of your belief system, you're not going to bring in what most Jews believe. You're trying to give a reasonable, logical response to what the text actually says. And if there's holes in that text, we have to own it. That's it.
Yeah, but that's like what, 1% of Jews are rationalists? Everybody else just says, no, this is divine and that's it.
We're talking about the Torah. The Torah should be able to stand on its own apart from what Jews believe of the Torah. Right. Yeah. This is why I don't quote the Rambam.
But it doesn't. Like, it's full of holes, and we agree on that as rationalists, and we move forward with taking it on faith.
Yeah. Okay. You know, so we're not arguing.
I think a lot of Jews, even practicing what we call Orthodox or traditional Jews, would acknowledge that there are holes and there are parts of the Torah that either don't make sense, are illogical, or unexplainable. And again, I don't think that ruins everything else.
Correct.
You know, I think, and that's why we have, you know, God knows how many books of commentary of Mishnah and Gemara and Talmud. It's like we have hundreds of books, Rambam, Rashi, all these people that try to explain some of these abnormalities or anomalies. And at the end of the day, that's a good thing because it stimulates the mind to continue to be forward thinking. It's like Asher said, if you just believe what it says because it says it, that's primitive thinking. Jews, through all this discussion and argument and disagreement, have shown an ability to progress with times and acknowledge things change over times, understandings change over times, and that doesn't shake the rest of the foundation of the faith. It doesn't mean, oh, everything comes crumbling down because there's one part of Numbers 23:47 that doesn't make perfect sense. It doesn't invalidate everything else.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but what I'm saying is majority. Like, if you're going to go into any Chabad synagogue or talk to any Orthodox, the actual Orthodox, first of all, they're going to tell you that every single letter in the Torah came from God, right? Like every nekudot is going to be from God. Hold on 1 second. Let me get my statement. Right? They're going to say that, right? The second thing they're going to do is they're going to take every passage that makes anybody in the Genesis or anywhere else look in a negative way, and they whitewash it, and they're going to tell you that this was all in a good way done. Like, you know, look at the story of Joseph being sold by his brothers. They'll tell you that this is a whole another explanation behind it, and it was actually a good thing, and they didn't do anything wrong. Right, that's how it works. So we do same exact thing in Judaism.
No,
there's only a very small group of people who don't do it.
We don't do it when we're debating people from other religions. If you're debating, if the topic is the Torah, why would a Jew in this debate with a non-Jew bring up the Talmud or that he believes, you know, that this was all given to Mount Sinai? It's a non sequitur. This
No,
is
but
why
after
I let it
you
go.
don't do it, I don't do it, but
In a
majority
debate,
do it.
okay, Shmuley Boteach, a Lubavitcher, wouldn't bring in the Talmud if he's arguing with a Christian on a Torah topic, right?
I don't know.
I mean, what do you
I'm
think?
talking
If he did,
average person, average religious Jew.
if he did, he would say the Talmud says.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
but he would say the Talmud is, he's going to tell you that oral Torah came from Sinai also.
no, he's not going to tell that to an audience of non-Jews because they know that the non-Jews haven't bought into this idea.
Oh, yeah, they will.
So
They'll tell you all
here's
that.
look. Someone made a comment. This kind of plays into what Asher said earlier. Someone just made a comment. Courtney, why don't you defend yourself? They're talking crap about your religion, essentially. And I said, oh, I don't care. Not only that, I'm just listening to the bickering going on. And then he said, wow, so you don't care? I can mock Jesus in front of you and you wouldn't do anything to me? So I'm going to take it that this person is Muslim. And this actually is the exact point that Asher was making earlier, that if someone leaves the faith, see, in Islam, you do these things. You're violent towards someone that mocks your prophets, etc. This is not the case for Jews and Christians. Now, there are some radical Jews, and I'm sure there's some radical Christians out there. No, let me reverse that. There are some radical Christians. I'm sure there's some radical Jews as well. However, it's not the standard to do these things. And so, no, I mean, I have no problem defending my words, defending actions, but I'm not going to be physical against someone because they are Jewish or they are Muslim and they don't believe what I believe.
First of all, I mean, I didn't attack Christianity, by the way. I mean, because you weren't making a claim. I was attacking the person, and she's extremely long-winded, and I hate when people who can't get to the point and have to always tell me that I'm defining a word wrong and takes the argument to a different level, right? Things in life either confirm the obvious or are typically wrong. To say that any belief system is perfectly logical means that you've drank the Kool-Aid. I'm sorry. And you're not in a position to discuss that religion from an academic perspective, which is what she's claiming to do, okay? And she has to walk things back. Find a hole in the Quran. Oh, that's not a hole because it's explained in another book. If that's not a primitive argument, I don't know what is. That's it.
Well, the other book explaining it proves that there was a hole.
Right.
You wouldn't need to you wouldn't have to explain it from a secondary text if the first text made perfect sense.
Well, that was Asher's point. But then again, we are separate religions speaking to each other. And so they believe hadiths are equal to the Quran and Asher doesn't. And so his point is, if you want to convince me as if I believe nothing of your religion. So the most logical point would be the Quran, start there, and then explain to me why I should accept the hadiths and which ones I should accept, etc.
I get exactly what Asher's saying, and I agree with what Asher's saying. Asher's basically saying in the same way how in Judaism, right? There's a lot of Jews that believe that the Mishnah and the writings of the sages and all of that stuff was given on Mount Sinai, but when we're debating a Muslim, we're not going to quote the Mishnah to them because they don't even believe in the Mishnah. They don't care about the Mishnah. To us, the Mishnah, to a lot of Jews, the Mishnah is as divinely inspired as their hadiths, but we're not going to use that in a debate against them. So that's the same thing with us. The Torah and the oral Torah come together, but we're not going to tell them stuff that's written in the oral Torah. In the same way, if we're debating on something on the Quran, we do not need to hear the words of the hadith.
Yeah, but that was my whole argument. That's what I was saying, that we just have to make that distinction first, and then we can move on with the topic. That's it.
We have to deal with macro issues, okay? But the issue is are our source texts irrational and illogical? There are portions that are absolutely irrational and illogical. If anyone walks around saying, even though it seems illogical, just wait because some rabbi, imam, sheikh, pastor, priest, whatever, has a definitive response, then they should have said it from the beginning. They should have said the Quran and the Hadith, but she says specifically the Quran, okay? Oh, well, it's the same thing. You didn't say that, okay? And even... Anyway, but there's hadiths that they don't accept either. But
I feel like that the hadith she pulled was a weak hadith as well. I'm just saying.
But it doesn't matter.
I don't think that matters.
So Reuven,
the whole point,
giving her the benefit of the doubt here.
Reuven,
we're not comparable. We're not academically comparable with someone who debates like that. Because I would never, debating an atheist, right? And I always debate on the ethics of the Torah. I wouldn't say, well, that statement in the Torah does seem unethical, but we, at the end of the At the end of the day, no, it's not, because in the Talmud it explains it. I don't know who would think that would be a good argument. I'll be like, I wish it was worded differently. Okay, we have things that explain it away, but we're discussing the Torah. We're not discussing these other texts. All right, that's it. It's not a complicated idea.
Okay, so I'm just going to say this. The same person said, I won't let someone insult Allah in front of me. I will be physical if that's what it takes. I mean, you're proving Asher's point. I'm just going to say, you're just proving his
A
point.
fanatic. Yeah, absolutely.
Look, the whole thing started because I didn't have actual statistics that more Christians convert to Judaism than Muslims. And then she was trying to use deductive reasoning. She was trying to use deductive reasoning, saying, "Oh, well, you don't have proof for anything."
People asking questions. Let's just move on.
Guy. He's been trying to ask a Jewish question. You
Rob, bring him up live with Oz. He's been saying he has Jewish questions.
Fine.
Hello. Thank you very much for. Holy gosh. Okay, I'm going to ask a question. Rabbi Asher, you were saying something earlier when speaking to Itachi that actually piqued my interest really hard.
When was it?
Yeah, what it was you were saying that there was some things about Tovia Singer that you didn't like. You didn't go into very many details, but one of the examples that you prefaced was when people say that the devil in Christianity, the devil in Judaism are different. You're like, no, that's not the case. I have a question. Are Jews monotheistic or henotheistic?
Jews are dualist.
Yep.
Once again, is the ideology monotheistic or henotheistic?
Dualist would fall under. It would fall under henotheism.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to verify, because as Muslims, we're taught that your feelings are monotheistic and not henotheistic.
Wait, hold on. I mean, don't let corny response from me. Jews essentially are, as they exist today, and Muslims and Christians are polytheist, whether they acknowledge it or not.
So we're not polytheist. Sir, my apologies. I asked you how you identify. I would ask that you don't imply an identity on me, because I'm not a polytheist.
No, wait a minute. No, hold on. You didn't ask me how I identify.
I did ask.
Are Jews.
I specifically asked a response about what you said. Specifically, I never made any implication at all.
Rabbi,
you said Jews. You didn't say me.
Rob said, yeah. That's what he.
Wait. Jews, apart from myself, I'll give you both responses. Jews, Christians, and Muslims, right? I'm just going to lump everyone in, are essentially polytheists. A polytheist means that you acknowledge that other gods exist, right? Whether you call them angels.
So again, that's a straw man, because I don't acknowledge that other gods exist.
Hey, look,
no, because kick me out if you want, but I don't acknowledge that other gods exist.
I have a full answer and then respond.
I can't. Okay, a polytheist acknowledges that other gods exist. They don't necessarily worship those other gods. Anyone who acknowledges angels exist have embraced, or even Satan exists, has embraced a form of either dualism or polytheism. Okay, because an angel is nothing but a god with a little g, let's say. In the vast majority of cases, it's a metaphor.
I don't believe that other gods exist.
No, I don't either. Okay, no, I'm just saying most Jews. Okay, a metaphysical being that has free will, that could even have the choice to fight against God, because in Judaism we do have Shadim, we have demons, the notion of a dibuk, right? Yeah. Samael, the king of the demons. And the Satan in many places is linked to someone who actually fights against God. Don't limit what Jews believe to what Tanakh says alone. Now, of course, if I was arguing for the validity of Tanakh, I would only use Tanakh. But he says, what do Jews believe? I don't believe in Satan. I don't believe in demons. And I essentially don't believe in angels either. I believe angels are an extension of God. If someone wants to believe that there's a separate being called Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Uriel and Raziel and other stuff, okay, that's a form of polytheism. A metaphysical being that has the free will to fight against God if he chooses to, you've already adopted. Just study Hinduism. Virtually every one of these Hindu gods are what we consider an angel in our belief system, but they have the guts to call these beings what they really are, gods with a little g. Okay, now I'll let this guy back on if he's willing to have, I don't like people being dishonest when they dialogue. Oh, I asked you this. He didn't ask me that. I mean, he asked me, what do Jews believe? Not what I believe. People know what I believe,
But I think the disagreement is because we don't define the terms first, right?
I
So
was trying
the
to do
argument
that.
is, what do you mean deity or God, right? So when you don't define it, then you get misunderstanding. And he thinks that you telling him that he believes in many gods, where he says, no, he believes in angels and demons and Satan, but God is one. So to him, the term God means different than what you claim that God
Sure.
is, right?
So that's
Yeah,
why I needed an opportunity to explain what I meant, because he wanted a one-word answer. Because most of these people who debate from that perspective, they win their debates on one-word responses. I don't do that. You're an idolater. You're a pagan. It's not like that. It's more sophisticated than that. Okay, I get that Christianity and Islam in particular are built on the notion of heaven and hell, demons and angels. Okay, I mean, how can you be a pure monotheist from that perspective? I mean, it's hard to. Yes, you may believe in one God, but he has many agents. And these agents, in many cases, for example, the Rambam disagrees of angels having free will. Okay, but this is the Rambam rationalizing things. If you believe that Lucifer is a fallen angel who in some way fights against God, it's hard to not be a polytheist. You may not worship these other gods, but you're acknowledging they exist. That's it.
So that's henotheism. So when you said don't let Courtney speak for me, I was not speaking for you. I was defining the terms which you didn't know. So henotheism is the acknowledgement of one God, but not you worship one God, but you acknowledge that there are others that exist. And then we have to define what is a God. Are angels considered gods? Well, according to the Tanakh, yes, they would be called Elohim. So this is why, again, Reuven said we need to define our term. And if we're going to define terms with a Muslim, it's going to be much different than what you would define with a Jew.
Okay, so that's playing with words essentially, because in Torah there's avodat elilim, that you're worshiping other gods or acknowledging that other gods actually exist is almost a form of idolatry. It's not like, oh well, you acknowledge they exist, you just don't worship them. This is an easy way of in some way trying to justify that you're still a monotheist even though you believe in other gods. All right, I mean it's semantics. And it's a trick. I mean, to in some way try to come out clean at the other side. It's still a form of polytheism.
I disagree. Just believe in different things.
What?
It's nobody believes that angels or Satan are gods, right? That the deities and gods are not the same thing, and the terms have to matter, right?
Yes,
We have to agree on the term.
Deity and God is the same thing, actually.
Yeah, deity.
By definition.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Language
Divine.
again, language. Okay. Beings that have supernatural beings and God Almighty are not the same thing.
Divinity. Those beings would be
Correct.
called divinity in English. Divine.
All right, there
divinity,
you go.
which is what Deuteronomy 32 is talking about, by the way. You see that.
So there you go. So we're talking about different things, right? When people say in Judaism or in Islam or probably even in Christianity, when people say God, they don't mean like God as in the lowercase g, right? They mean God as in the one overall God of the universe. And then they have these other little things, the demons, the whatever. Those are not gods in the same sense.
But why not?
But who believes that they are gods? I've never met a person who says that they are like that.
Well,
they don't call it gods, but we attack Hindus from that perspective. We claim that Hindus have millions of gods, but they really have one God, and they have all these other sub-gods. But they essentially have the same characteristics as angels do in the Kabbalistic world. So they're essentially gods with a little g.
Yeah,
but that's not related to the argument. We weren't talking about Hinduism, right?
Reuven, but wait a minute. I get exactly what Asher's saying, because as well in Kabbalah, right? It says that there's an angel that governs the ocean. There's an angel that makes the wind blows this way, that God sends to do this. It's essentially the same thing in Hinduism, because in Hinduism they have a God of the sky, God of this, God of that, but then they also have the God Almighty that everything resides in him. So it's kind of the same process. We just call it in a different way. It's true.
Yeah, but Kabbalah is a bunch of nonsense anyway.
It doesn't matter.
Of course it is, but that's why he was saying that's what Jews believe. That
we have to use equal scales, okay? And this is a tactic from the Muslim to make everyone else look primitive and them superior. And they'll use the Torah against us, saying like, oh, here it shows God appearing someone in human form. It shows that our Torah is corrupt. We have to be honest to what's there, and we have to compare it to other belief systems. If you're going to call other people polytheists, and the way they view their deities are the same way we view our deities, i.e. gods with the little g, then we have to be honest and say that we're doing something wrong. But by the simple fact that we're trying to justify parts of Tanakh, right, that make no sense with the Torah alone, like some being named Angel Gabriel, right? I mean, this is kind of problematic. That fights against demons, i.e. fallen angels from a metaphysical perspective, right? It's guy. You have
I
to
don't
be
even.
honest.
Yeah, it's pointless.
Well, anyways.
Yeah, I think
I've been teaching this topic for a very long time.
Yeah, the problem is generally with all arguments is the definitions. People argue over before defining words, and it becomes huge argument. And then, in the end, we're talking about the same thing, but we mean different things.
Yeah, I don't know. Wait, talk same things, but we mean okay. All right. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but we mean different things. You're talking about definitions.
Yeah, definitions.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, the Rambam makes a statement in a letter he wrote that we're allowed to teach Torah to Christians to draw them to our belief system, essentially because they believe in our Bible. But we shouldn't encourage Muslims to become Jewish because they're going to use our Bible against us. And they're very deceitful, and anyone who knows nothing about religion, unless the guy or girl is not educated, is going to fall by the person who just keeps talking non sequiturs, but it's so silly. I mean, it's so silly. Trust me. People think that I'm arguing Judaism from the same perspective that they're arguing Islam. They're arguing from a perspective that if it's wrong, it's right, and if it's right, it's right. Okay? That's not the perspective that I come into any of these discussions. I'm willing to change, and I'm willing to acknowledge that something's irrational, illogical, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't make sense. But they won't do it. So then what's the point of even dialoguing with somebody like that? If you're not willing to change, then you're not committed to truth. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, while they do believe that our Bible is corrupt, it's interesting because without our Bible, they wouldn't know many of the names of the patriarchs' wives, etc., because it's just not mentioned in the Quran.
Yeah, but you got to understand that they don't believe it that way. They believe it that they just got their message straight from a guy that was in a cave that Gabriel came to. They do not believe it in the way that, he got his inspiration from the Torah and the New Testament and yada, yada, yada. Because, but it says it in the Quran, but they don't believe it that way. They believe in the narrative.
Right, but within the Quran in general, it talks about the people of the book, which would be Christian and Jews. So it's like, right. So the only source of Jesus would be from the New Testament, and so it makes no point. It makes no sense to just disregard the points within the Tanakh.
But you got to understand that their position is that it was already long time corrupted, and Muhammad got his information from Gabriel the correct way that it's supposed to be said. So they're not going to look at the New Testament and be like, oh no, this is the correct version of Jesus. They're considering it like y'all know what y'all talking about.
I'm inviting this guy live, and he doesn't want to come on. Okay, I mean, I'm clicking invite. I mean, just so someone who feels that I'm trying to keep these guys off. I invited that girl also back. I mean, like twice. So
he started her on live already.
Yo, live with Oz. Request a thing because he keeps saying that he's trying to come back up. There
he is.
Okay. Wait. Okay. So let's go point by point. Let's not be long-winded, and I won't be long-winded. Okay. So go ahead.
First of all, let me preface by saying that I asked you a question about what you think. I don't need injections about what you think I think, because I didn't do that to you. I didn't say you believe this
I misheard
at all. Right?
I misheard. If it was only about me.
Yeah, it's straight up. First of all, first and foremost. Secondly, again, I'm not trying to debate you at all. In no way am I trying to debate you. I'm trying to clarify an understanding that I have been told that may be incorrect. So that's all. And if I use any terminology that doesn't rub right with you, then by all means ask me to clarify. And I will clarify by saying that we don't attribute anything to anything as a deity at all. This is my belief. So my belief is anything that is not God does not get this terminology at all. I don't care about how magnificent it is or supernatural it may be. Only God deserves this terminology of God. That's how I believe. So even if it is something supernatural, even if it's something that I can't explain, I would never attribute it to God. That's me.
Fine.
Perfect. So
Okay.
once we have that
So that's one
understanding out of the
statement.
way, that's cool. The reason
That's a
why I'm
statement
asking this
Let me-
question,
Okay, hold on.
the reason why I'm asking this question is because I grew up as a Christian, and in the Bible, in 2 Corinthians 4:4, it refers to Satan directly being the god of the world, the idea of how the world operates. My question is, do you as Jews attribute this type of...
Wait, Jews or me? I mean, because you're doing it again.
Like, so Jews in general, do Jews in general have this ideology
Also, that's what
that
you said in the
Satan
beginning. Wait, hold
holds...
on. Hold on. I mean, just for accuracy, in the beginning, you also said the same question. Do Jews, not me. I mean, don't consider me as part of the Jewish people. I mean, when I'm discussing religion, because I'm being...
my apologies. My apologies. Your name was Rabbi Asher, so I just assumed that you're actually a rabbi.
No,
so then I
he is a
answered...
Jew, but that doesn't mean that he believes everything by the letter that other Jews believe in every single way.
There's a consensus.
There's a distinction.
Yeah, Judaism is not like Islam. We don't have strict consensus. Everybody has different opinions.
Perfect. So that's, again, something that I didn't know. I wouldn't have known that because I don't make assumptions, straight up. Okay. So when you're saying, when your name presents as rabbi, I'm assuming that there is a consensus that you would be able to share. Or maybe I wasn't clear enough in my question. I'm looking for a consensus.
Wait.
Yeah.
Didn't I give over that consensus? I said
no,
most
because
Jews
the
believe
consensus
this.
included what you believe, what Jews... and
No,
that
I
you
never
believe
mentioned
that
what I
Jews...
believe. No,
My apologies. My apologies. Listen to what I'm saying. In your consensus, when I first started, why I interrupted you is because you started your statement with saying that Christians, Muslims, and Jews are polytheists because... I didn't ask this. My simple question was
part of my response.
Do you have the same apology?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. So you can't tell me how to respond. I was trying to preface my response, right, saying that Jews, Christians, and Muslims, you have to let me finish. I can't... Look, you can respond any way you want to my questions, but if I don't give you the response you're expecting, you're going to interrupt me and say, that's not what I asked. This is not the way you dialogue with people. I have to speak in a certain way because I know that many people, not just you, try to use dialogue as a tactic to corner people. So
all right,
I have to preface saying that
let me preface something else. I'm autistic. Let me just preface this.
Okay.
I'm autistic. As somebody on the spectrum, and on top of this, again, I'm going to preface, I'm not here trying to swing a point. I'm literally trying to learn something from you. Straight up. I'm not here trying to debate. I'm not here trying to make a point. I'm not trying to even tell you about Islam. Nothing. I literally am trying to clear an ideology that we're being taught about how you think. That's it.
Go ahead.
I think you got offended when I lumped Christians along with Muslims. That's what you were...
No. See, again, you're making assumptions. I'm getting offended because you're assuming about me. Okay. I asked you a question and only assumed based on the title of presentation.
Hold on.
You're making assumptions that because I'm a Muslim, I feel this way, I think this way. My dad is a pastor, sir. My dad died a pastor 3 weeks ago.
Just let me talk.
So how do you make an assumption that I just hate or I'm thinking against Christians?
Oh my gosh.
One person has to talk at a time.
If I have an opinion on something, whether it's incorrect or not, you have to wait for me to finish my statement so you can bring a rebuttal. Okay, but by saying no, this is against the rules of decent dialogue. You ask a question, let me respond, and then you could explain how it's a non sequitur, how it has nothing to do, and it wasn't a non sequitur. I said Jews believe this, but Christians and Muslims believe it also. That's my opinion. You would have had a chance to respond if you didn't get so emotional. That's it. Okay. Now, if you want, ask me the question again, but don't say that I didn't ask you what Jews believe. I asked you what you believe. Not even an imam, or at least an honest imam, acts like some sort of consensus machine. He'll tell you, I think it says this, but overall Muslims believe that. That's exactly how I respond to every question. That's it. Okay, here, ask me again.
Okay. That, honestly, to be honest, I don't even feel like continue the dialogue because I feel like I'm going to be hung up on the idea that you're making assumptions, and it just bothers me that I'm honestly really trying to get an idea. Are you saying that there is not a consensus ideology, and that me looking for this is me asking, is looking for an answer in the wrong way?
There's no consensus on metaphysical issues in Judaism. There's no consensus.
So that in itself is a misconception that I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right there. Right? So I'm under the conception that because there is Torah and the Torah is revealed in a certain way, and that the Talmud is a compilation of what rabbis are saying about certain things that happen or have been revealed, or about stories of prophet or about law, etc., that I'm thinking that there is a consensus amongst belief. And are you saying that even amongst different sects of Judaism, within those sectors of Judaism and ideologies, that there could be individualized thought processes about these things?
Regarding metaphysical issues only. There's some things that are set in stone, right? But specifically metaphysics, angels, heaven and hell, afterlife, all this stuff, there's no consensus. So whether God is one, yes, there's a consensus on that. Whether the Torah was given to us on Mount Sinai, there's a consensus on that.
All right, so that actually poses a big question for me then. If I am to become Jewish, how do I receive guidance then? Because if it's based on what somebody's perspective is, it's like in the terms of metaphysicals, if it's based on what someone's perspective is and there isn't a consensus or even revelation, how is it relevant to me?
So I don't think anyone needs, from an objective perspective, any guidance in the metaphysical in order to live a Jewish existence. The only thing a Jew is required to believe is what literally appears in the 5 books of Moses, and the notion that they're obligated to keep Jewish law as taught by the Sanhedrin. And this is what appears in the Talmud. That's it. Any metaphysical idea that's outside of the Torah is optional to believe. If it's literally in the Torah, you must believe it as a Jew. And Jews even argue on that. But at least from a principles perspective, if it appears in your source book, it's both obligatory to do and to believe. If it appears in rabbinic literature, it's obligatory to do, but not necessarily believe.
So then that leads back to my question. In my question, like the devil appears within the first 5 books, right? The idea of the devil doesn't appear in the Torah at all. The idea of the opposing.
No,
it's not in the Torah.
Interesting. So that's actually very, very interesting to me, because in the Bible he does appear many times. He appears as a snake. He appears as an ideology, and these are proposed. Hold on a second. These are proposed. No, I understand that there are differences in this way. So again, it's being proposed in the church that Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers are the Torah. Correct. And in these books, it gives descriptions of the devil. And you're telling me that I'm telling you in the Christian version of these books, they give descriptions of the devil. Okay, this is an ask. This is true.
Hey,
so what I'm saying is that in
the
Jewish books,
I have to respond to this, okay? And then Courtney, you could follow up. Okay, there's no Christian versions of these books. Nowhere, even in the Christian translations of the Torah, does the word devil appear or the word Satan. Nowhere.
So once again, I prefaced very clearly that the idea of this individual exists. I never said that the name devil is there. I never said that. I said the idea of this individual exists within the first 5 books. This is what I said. My question was about the idea that the Christians have about who this individual is and their control on the earth. My question was, is this synonymous in Judaism? Because my understanding is that you only attribute divine things to God, but you also clarified today that that's not true, that divine things are also attributed to angels, even if they're called Elohim. However, the way that I have been described to it is that Elohim has been used as a term of respect to those things, that they're not actually being called God. But you're telling me a little bit otherwise, that you also believe in small g ideologies, which is different than what we are being told. We are being told that Jews and Christians do not have this same ideology in a small g and large g, that you only use Elohim in terms of respect, that you're not actually calling those things or attributing those things to God. So that's all I wanted to clarify. I wanted to clarify if the idea of what the devil is and how it interacts with us is the same for the basic Jew.
No. Okay, well, first of all, I never said that I believe in the little g ideology. I said that most Jews believe that. I don't. Elohim,
my apologies,
means essentially powerful ones, and judges are called Elohim, angels are called Elohim, God is called Elohim.
Moses was called Elohim also.
Yeah, it's not God's name.
It has multiple connotations to it.
Exactly, which leads back to the idea that I'm under the assumption that you use it in terms of respect or endearment for things that are above us in a metaphysical plane. This
Oh no,
is
we
how I
don't.
understood it.
We don't. That's how the Torah
Perfect.
uses
Thank you
it.
for clarifying that.
Yeah, Jews never use that word for anything other than referring to God when they're reading the Torah. Yeah.
Perfect. So some Christians do have ideologies where they can give this kind of notion of a deity or godship to something else that they don't believe in or won't worship, and then this is known as henotheism. So basically, I
Wait,
was
can
trying
you
to
say that
ask
again?
if
Wait,
this,
can you
like,
please?
so the idea of acknowledging or believing that there are other gods, but
No,
none
I
of them
know
are
under
worthy
the
of worship.
definition. Can
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
repeat what you just said?
That this ideology is henotheistic,
No,
and
I
that
know that.
Christians are
Repeat what you said
henotheistic,
before
but they
that.
don't. I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing something.
Can you start over? Is what I'm saying. Right after Asher said what he said, start over.
Ooh, yeah,
With
it was a little bit
with
hard. A
regard
little bit hard.
with
Hold on.
regard to the word Satan and Christians having the idea that he's the god of this world.
Yes, yes. So there's
Okay,
a
now
verse. There's a verse in
answer
the New
more.
Testament that speaks directly to Satan being the god of the world, or
Right.
having this ideology that he controls the way that the world runs now
It
on a
doesn't,
secular
it's
level.
okay, full stop. It's not that he controls anything. He's considered an adversary. And this is something that Asher was just saying, that Jews and Christians have a very similar idea here. In fact, this is where Christians got the idea from, originally Jews. Now, will you hear that consistently in how Judaism is represented overall online? No, you won't hear that. Why? Because then that gives Christians ammos against Jews. And so it's a big battle between three religious Abrahamic religions, and no one wants to give ammo to the other side. But if you go into a Jewish synagogue and you sit down and you study their books, you will absolutely see the ideas that Christians share with regard to the adversary having some sort of, goal to try and battle against Hashem.
Sure, that I can agree with, but they kind of give him this, like, I don't want to say glory. That I don't want to. That sounds devious. I don't mean that. They have. I also preface that French is my first language, so it's a little bit.
Okay, hold on.
So okay.
Hold on.
What's the
One
word I
thing
want
though,
to say?
sorry.
But
But
can you
even
explain the
Hasidic
differences
Jews,
between the Christian Satan and the Muslim Satan in terms of
but
characteristics?
Asher, but also Hasidic Jews don't view Satan as an independent being. They believe that he's an angel doing job that God gave him, right? He's
Right.
not a
No, I
rebel.
don't think. I mean, that's how the Book of Job presents him. But you heard of a pulsa denora? So pulsa denora is a spell that Kabbalistic Jews put on people they don't like. In Aramaic, it means lashes of fire. These are demons that are sent to harm people just on your will alone. This notion, yeah, I mean, anyways, if the characteristics of the Islamic Satan are the same characteristics as the Christian Satan, are you just arguing semantics just because Christianity had the guts, to identify Satan as a god with a little g, and Muslims didn't?
No. What it is that okay. So what he does, what he is, and how we recognize him or how we attribute him are different stories, right? So, like, for instance, I'll give a great example. Mussolini unalived like 35 million people at that time or something like that. It's a ridiculous number. Yeah.
No.
Now, I would
that's
never
inaccurate,
say,
but go ahead.
I'm just using a ridiculous number, whatever,
Okay.
right? Not just for the sake of simplicity. Now, imagine me going and being like, yeah, he's great at unaliving. You don't still use terms like this. You don't pay like this respect to things that
No.
aren't really good. You know what I'm saying? So for me,
His
when I'm reading
characteristics are the
this,
same,
and this
essentially.
is before I was a Muslim. When I'm reading it, I kind of feel like some of the ways that we attribute the things that the devil does, it's almost like it's great that it happens this way in the verbiage that we use. And I always found that to be a weird concept, like, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, but isn't
And
that what
so,
Christians do, by the way? Right?
I'm sorry?
Christians don't say, don't embellish the notion of a bad Satan. Right? I mean, they know that.
So here's the thing. I have met Christians that feel this way. I've actually even met Christians that I've spoken to directly who say that they even feel badly about the idea that this is that individual. I've heard these things.
What?
So
Okay.
I'm not placing this on everybody. Please don't
Is your
think that
argument on
I'm doing that.
Christians? Okay, but you're
But
not
I'm
answering
just
the
saying.
question. Are the characteristics of the Islamic Satan the same as the one in the Christian Satan? And if they are, then what are you arguing but semantics?
In some ways, except for the fact that we don't believe he was ever an angel.
Okay, what was he?
He was another species called a jinn.
What is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Islam believes in jinns.
Yeah.
Okay, but what is that?
Jinn
So
is like
jinn
what?
is another species that God had
It's a
created
demon. It's
that is
essentially a
unlike
demon.
us.
As such, there's a belief in Islam that jinns were there at the creation of the world, and they're made out of fire and something and whatever, and they've been there for
So an
thousands of
angel.
thousands of years.
So a
Right.
seraphim.
No.
Cherubim.
Angels are beings that are created out of light. The substance that they're created of would be
Oh, the
known
Bible
as
doesn't
like
say
a
that, by the
smokeless
way.
fire. It gives them defining characteristics in between what they are.
Here, listen.
But not every angel looks the same.
So from a Jewish perspective, we expanded the notion of angels, okay? Because nowhere in the Torah does it say that cherubim, cherubim are angels. But because of the book of Ezekiel, all these celestial beings got linked with the term angel. So what you're basically saying is that Muslims have the same understanding of Satan, with the exception of his origin, than Christians do. With the exception of his origin, then what's the
In
point
some of the ways that he
Christian?
can interact, sure. Yes, in some of the ways that he can interact, sure, there are similarities, but his origin, his makeup, his abilities, they differ in those ways.
Yeah, in
So what's
Islam,
the
his name is
point?
like Iblis or what all that.
No, but
Literally,
all
all my
based-
point was just basically the view that Jews have about this character. If it's more similar to how Christians view, or if it's more similar to how
Yeah, but that's not your later point. I mean, your later point was that because Christianity uses the word God or Satan as the God of this world, that in some way makes them primitive, and Islam, like
I
sophisticated.
never even said that either. Again, please don't make assumptions about my point. My point was that they are able to loosely attribute characteristics that were given to God to other things.
That's exactly
and I
what I
gave an
just said.
example as Satan.
Yeah.
Right?
That is what
again,
Asher just said.
My apologies. Maybe I misunderstood his position because, again, what I'm saying is that I just wanted to know if the similarities are in your viewpoint or in the way that he's presented. That's basically what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
And
So it seems that you don't have
got my answer.
much ammunition to toss towards Christians. I mean, you guys pretty much believe, for the most part, the same thing. I mean, there's a bigger gap between Judaism and Christian beliefs regarding Satan and evil forces than there are between Muslims and Christians.
Today,
whatever.
My apologies. Can you repeat that?
Today's Judaism
Mm-hmm.
differs more with Christianity's interpretation of Satan and Judaism today's interpretation of Satan than in the past at the time of the Jewish literature, which was very similar.
No, I didn't make that point.
No,
Courtney, that depends on timeline, right? If you're gonna bring different timelines, Jews didn't even have Satan and all that crap before Babylon. The demons and Satan didn't exist before Babylon.
Christians and Muslims agree
I'm aware
more
of
on
that.
the notion of Satan than Christians do with Jews on the notion of Satan. Nowadays, at least. Okay. That's it.
Okay. And in what ways do the ideologies of Satan differ now with today's Judaism? And okay, a clarifying point. What do you mean by today's Judaism? Because previously you prefaced that certain things are left to interpretation. So I'm and then when trying to find consensus in certain things, you're saying that that's kind of hard to do because there's differing of things. So when you say today's
Only in the
Judaism
metaphysical.
versus ancient Judaism in terms of metaphysical, what do you mean?
Well, first off, there's no monolithic understanding of what Satan is or isn't, or demons or even angels in Judaism. So modern day Judaism deals with a lot of English translations. Like, it's called ArtScroll Judaism. ArtScroll is probably like the most prevalent, a translation company out there. So when they're teaching Judaism to newcomers, they present a version of Satan that is the opposite of what Muslims and Christians believe, just because they have some sort of chip on their shoulder, right? I mean, they're not bringing you the plethora of examples of Satan that appear in folklore and legend, right? They're in some way equipping Jews to remain Jewish because they don't want them to be swayed either way into Islam or Christianity by some non-Jew. Right. So that's why I'm saying today's Judaism versus, I mean, with Judaism in the past, the only person who was able to learn it was someone who was able to read Hebrew. I mean, someone who knew the sources. Nowadays, I mean, someone could get a concise guide of what Jews believe and don't believe, like Judaism for Dummies, and that's going to give you a rendition of what rabbis want newcomers to believe regarding Judaism. That's it.
You would need back then even to know Aramaic to even to learn. It's not even Hebrew. It would be even harder to learn. But modern, I think the easiest way to explain the modern Judaism in its majority is very heavily influenced by Kabbalah. And so what you're going to get is going to be very different from Judaism that would be 500 years ago, the Judaism from 1,000 years ago, and from 2,000 years ago. Because the influences are, and it's even influenced by Islam and Christianity in a way, because it picked up some of the beliefs from those religions as well.
Yeah, we kind of have the same kind of cross references for certain things in that regard too. So my last question then is, if I wanted to take a trip through time in Judaism, right? What would be the best oldest source that I could use for the Torah that I would be allowed to access? Because obviously I can't touch Torah scrolls. I'm not learned in that way yet, right? But where would I start to read from?
Just go to Safari and read Torah. That's the same Torah that anybody can read.
So the Torah doesn't have an issue of translation from Hebrew where there's a better translation that I should use, or a most reputable one.
Oh, you mean in English?
Yes.
So any translation you use, unless you use, and here I'm plugging in a Christian book called the Amplified Bible that gives you every possible, scenario of the word being used.
I understand that much. Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of Jewish translations, by the way.
I can definitely understand why. 11 million words being transposed into 550,000 with 150 dead words. I can understand.
No, well, that's my point. My point is that I'm a bigger fan of Christian translations of the Bible than Jewish translations of the Bible.
Why?
Even though there's errors in both, but I think there's more errors in Jewish translations because Jews have an agenda. And Christians also have an agenda, but Jews seem to have a bigger agenda. And that's in some way deifying and elevating commentators to an unhealthy level. There's many portions of
we know about that.
Wait, hold on. There's many portions of the Art Scroll translation and even the Gutnick translation, which are popular Orthodox Jewish translations, that will specifically translate a verse in the Torah in a completely different manner as it literally appears, because Rashi says that it should have been translated differently. And they'll go with what Rashi says because they're convinced that Rashi was divinely inspired. So a Christian wouldn't do that. Okay, I mean, a Christian will change it in different ways, but we already know the inaccuracies in Christian translations, but we don't know the inaccuracies in Jewish translations.
So what would be an official online source that I can use to see the Torah in Hebrew?
Interlinear. Just use an interlinear. It's going to be translated by Hebrew scholars, and those are Jewish and Christian alike together.
No, he said it in Hebrew.
In Hebrew.
Yes,
in Hebrew.
an interlinear will have the Hebrew with it. It will translate. It will give you the grammar on how the word is translated. And please understand that when you are reading a English translation of a Hebrew, sometimes it avoids grammar rules. I have videos on this if you want to look at it.
I know about this. And in French, it's the same thing because we have a lot. We have stricter grammar in certain ways, so certain sentences will change dramatically in certain regards. Yes. I'll give you an example. If you have 10,000 women in a room and I introduce one male,
one man,
when I address the plural, it's literally now a whole male plural sentence.
Yeah.
And so if I translate it back, it sounds like I'm talking only about guys, right? So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you have that, and that's what you call translator bias, because the translator has to pick one. He either has to translate it verbatim, literally word for word, which is not going to read well, and it's going to read weird because subject verb agreement is not always a thing in biblical Hebrew, whereas in modern Hebrew it is.
Correct.
And then you also have the fact that verbs are mentioned before nouns, and nouns are mentioned after before in the English, etc. And so it's all going to be flipped. But the interlinear, if you want to see that, it's going to have the word, and it's going to have the absolute best probable answer for what that literally means, and then it's up to you to then run with that with the way that you're going to metaphysically interpret it, which is why Jews have multiple ideas.
And now, last thing, is there any interlinear version or even addition or a year or anything like that you think, based on your personal experience, I would be able to extrapolate the most from?
That I don't have
Somebody
an
said
answer to.
Safaria. Somebody said Safaria.
Safari is a Jewish website. It's fairly good, I think. But
Hold
it
on, I
does
think it's
come with
frozen.
Rashi's interpretation. It's not frozen for me.
No, it's not
I
frozen.
think this app is frozen.
So
All right. Well,
you can look it up, and you'll also
Yeah,
see Rashi's commentary at the top. You just hit.
it's
all right.
we can hear
Very,
you, Asher.
very last
But by the
question.
way, it's interesting. Sorry, I was gonna say that when I first was learning the Torah, I read it because I didn't know Hebrew, so I read it in Russian. And then when I read it in English afterwards, I thought that there was a horrible translation because Russian is much richer language. So when I read the originally, like my first time in my life, I read it in Russian. So then seeing the English translations, I've never seen an English translation that was even close to being good.
Even close, eh? I could feel that. By the way, I didn't know that you spoke Russian, so I challenge you one day to a game of Durak.
Okay,
I got you. I got you in a game of Durak, my friend.
good luck with that one.
Hey, listen,
That comes in the blood.
I played with the Ruskies 13, 14 hours a day for like 6 years. I got this. I got
Did you play preference with them?
No, unfortunately not. Durak was the game of choice.
Ah.
All right. So, guys, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to answer some of my questions, because I do think that I've been equipped, not necessarily with the
Can't hear
answer
this
that I was
stupid
looking
thing.
for. Oh, sorry about that.
I think it messed
Asher,
up.
we can hear
I
you.
don't necessarily think I got the answer that I was looking for, but I definitely got the resources that I would